Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another live stream. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking. All right, so I owe you guys a stream from last night because I didn't get a chance to do the stream that I wanted to do last night. So I'm tonight is gonna be all night for real. I'm not gonna fall asleep tonight. We finna get it tonight. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to everybody that's here. Shout out to the early birds. Shout out to the replay viewers. I'm gonna give some quick acknowledgments before we get into this. If you guys can hear me okay, make sure you guys give me a thumbs up. If the audio is good, radiation emoji in the chat. If you guys cannot hear me and the audio is bad, then give me a thumbs down. All right. So let me shout out everybody that's in the building already. We got my man Terrence Jackson up in here. We got Volvo 2 Love in the house. Shout out to my man AJ. We got Hurricane IQ in the building. We got Brooklyn Queen 125. We got Vega. Shout out to Vega. We got Edward Berry. All right. Shout out to everybody who's in the room early. All right. And make sure you guys show some love. Throw some radiation emoji in the chat for Brooklyn Queen 125, supporting the channel for 5 months. Definitely appreciate you. All right. If there's any other members in the building, make sure you guys use that milestone chat so that we can give you props for helping make the channel what it is. All right. So the title of this video is What Would Malcolm X Say About Liberal California's Reparations Support and America? Now, before we even get started, my question for you guys is, if Malcolm X was alive today, what do you think his feelings would be? How do you think he would feel about the United States? How do you think he would feel about us? How do you think that he would feel about the way things have been going? Keep that in mind, because we're going to check out an article from the Mercury Times, and then we're going to go old school. Shout out to my man, Philip Goodman. What's good with it, bro? We're going to go old school, all right? So this is an article from the Mercury Times, and what it says is nearly 60% of California voters oppose reparations payback for Black residents, all right? Then under it, it says, but the majority of voters agree on slavery's lasting troubling effect. So now here's my question. They disagree with reparations, but they agree that slavery still affects people who are alive today. Here's my question. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? That's like if you have a staph infection and the doctor says, I don't agree with giving you vancomycin, but, I do believe that the staph infection is messing with you. So you got a double negative here. Now, remember, this is liberal California. Liberal California. This is the state that all the Republicans complain about, California. Now, if you guys recall, these same Republicans, especially the NRA, they were not upset when California had its restrictive gun laws that were made to restrict access of Second Amendment rights to the Black Panthers. They weren't upset about that. They were all about gun control. And when it comes to these organizations like the NRA, that's exactly what it's about. It's about gun control. They want to control who's able to get guns. They want to make it where any of a specific type of people can get guns, and make it where people that they feel they're not completely in line with, or people that they feel might have some opposition to their program, are not able to get guns. So this is the sentiment, all right? This is the California reality. The California reality is that nearly 60% of California voters oppose reparation payments for Black residents, but the majority of voters agree on slavery's lasting troubling impact. Anytime I see something like this, the only thing that I think of is extra political means. Extra political means. And make no mistake, it's people like Jimmy Dore. Yeah, we'll be on him later on tonight. And people like Bernie Sanders, your quote unquote friendly neighborhood liberals, who are on this kind of nonsense. All right, because they want to maintain the hierarchy. You know what I'm saying? And it is what it is. In order to topple a hierarchy, you got to knock the hierarchy down. You know what I'm saying? And nobody's going to knock it down on their own. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, over the last few years, the idea of reparations, which would compensate the descendants of American slaves, has gained some traction across the country, which again, this automatically off the rip is an inaccurate statement because people have been talking about reparations since before Martin Luther King. Would you guys agree? If you guys agree, and that's a true statement, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. So now here it says a state task force recently recommended making cash reparations a reality in California. Yet voters in the Golden State, who are liberal majority, oppose doing so by a roughly 2-to-1 margin, according to a new poll from University of California, Berkeley's Institute of Governmental Studies. So now let me ask you guys a question. What politician heavily funds University of California at Berkeley? Take a wild guess. I'll give you a hint. It's an individual from Chicago. Another liberal. You know what I'm saying? Another liberal. And shout out to Hurricane for hitting and shout out to Brooklyn Queens for hitting the stream elements bot. The findings reveal the racial and political contradictions of California voters. Yeah, and we absolutely said that. That's what Lloyd Sky 9 said. Super facts. Lloyd Sky 9 said it's a non-action statement. And what else it is something that we expect to see. We don't expect to see a definitive position-taking answer. What we expect to see is nonsense and gibberish. Because why would anybody say anything that makes sense? Krista Mora, co-director of the Institute, said in a statement, while many can empathize with the plight of Black Americans, not all of these feelings will translate into support for policies that address longstanding harms. If that's the case, then you don't support us. And that's just it. You don't, if you feel that somebody is starving and they say they're hungry and you agree and you don't give them any food, you don't support them, period, point blank. There's no mystery about any of this. Again, I want you guys to understand when these people come with this babble, this is an attempted play on your intelligence. And one of the reasons why they attempt to play on your intelligence is because they're so arrogant, they don't believe that you have any intelligence. You're not allowed to have an opinion. You're not allowed to have a different worldview. You're not allowed to do any of that stuff. If you don't see the world and everything in it the way that the majority of these people see the world, well, you're dumb, you're not educated, and because of the ongoing narrative of Black conservatorship, people will take it and run with it. And it is what it is. We create our own value chains. We deal with the economy on our own. We can quantitatively ease the reparations right into our account. Then it'll be nothing anybody can do about it. And then once we do that, then we can start putting the heat on people. Own a couple regional electric companies, start turning up those kilowatt hours during the price on those kilowatt hours during blackout periods. You're going to wish that you had paid reparations. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, and though this might be an information issue for some groups, and it's not an information issue at all. If you praise Robert E. Lee, you know what I'm saying? If you're flying a Confederate flag, you absolutely understand everything about slavery because you're flying historical landmarks from that time period. There's no need for explanation of any of that. That's just like if I come to you with a stethoscope. I don't need you to tell me about how to take a heartbeat. I have the instruments that implies that I know how to take it. You got Confederate flags, you know what I'm saying? Worship Robert E. Lee, you know what I'm saying? You got the Daughters of Confederacy to make sure that all the Confederate monuments stick around. You understand completely. You understand the assignment. Nobody's going to sit here and play games. And as a matter of fact, even if there was information that you needed, you're utilizing all of your extra income to fund political objectives to make talking about these kind of topics illegal. So not only do you fly, wear, and sell paraphernalia from those times, but also you're funding policy and politicians to simply make the talking about this illegal. We don't bear any burden on anybody to educate anybody about anything. It is what it is. The only people that we bear a burden to educate about anything is ourselves. And if you ask me, one of the most important educations that we can have is to be educated about all of these people who have these kind of sentiments. Educating anybody else is just futile. It's a waste of time. It's nonsense. There's no need to do it. So now here it says the fact that even liberals are divided indicates that campaigns for racial redress will face a steep uphill climb. Even liberals. Now, why is anybody concerned? Why are we giving liberals a pass as if they're any different? They said even liberals, as if that's something surprising. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says among the 59% of overall voters who oppose cash reparations, 44% strongly oppose the idea, suggesting that the task force recommendation faces significant obstacles, even in deep blue California. Now, if California was a person and California is a liberal, what would Malcolm X say about California in 2023? That's my question. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to everybody that's watching. We got 17 people watching and we got 16 likes. If everybody could smash that like button and get us over 20, that'd be great. The poll, look at this. The poll found that 43% of Democrats favor the idea. So this is what people need to understand. This is before we even get to dealing with the Republicans, 43% of Democrats, right? What this means is that, what is that? 57% of Democrats are opposed to it. 57% of Democrats are opposed to it. So before you even get to dealing with Republicans, the alleged, the white declared party of the blacks, which is what they call the Democrats, which I don't know why they call the Democrats that, but that party opposes it. Okay? Extra political means. EPM. The poll found that 43% of Democrats favor the idea, while 42 oppose cash reparations. Why would you have a specific opposition to cash reparations? Think about this. There's nothing illegal about reparations other than the slavery that was involved that created the necessity for the claim, right? There is actually illegal immigration going on, and they want to give those people a pass from the legal system. Let that marinate. They would rather assist people in breaking the law than they would in paying reparations. So now that's one of the reasons why I advocate for extra political means, because if you ask me, that requires karma plus some. If you guys agree that that requires karma plus some, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. And shout out to Brooklyn Queen and Hurricane IQ for hitting the stream elements. Republicans overwhelmingly reject the concept with 91% opposed. I wonder who the 9% are that aren't opposed. I don't even care about Republicans having 91% opposition, because we all know that when they go home, they burn crosses and put a hood on. I want to know who the 9% are that aren't opposed. That's what I'm curious about. Who is it that doesn't oppose? I would have thought that it would have been 100% of Republicans were opposed. I bet you that 9% who are not opposed are the small percentage of black conservatives. Because some of those black conservatives aren't Sambo conservatives. Some of those black conservatives are actually real, actual, normal, decent human beings. I bet you the actual poll probably breaks down the demographics, Hurricane IQ, the poll from University of California, Berkeley. But the poll sample that they have, and thanks, shout out to Vega for answering the stream elements. Shout out to Speak Facts Podcast. Oh yeah, bro, I slept all night last night. That's why I didn't give any more. That's why I didn't do any more streams. What's good with it, Anna? B unit, yeah, facts. That's hilarious. So now here it says, and while 76% of black voters, so this is 76%, right? Favor cash reparations, 65% of white voters and 59% of Latino and Asian and Pacific Islander voters don't like the idea. So again, right? I want you guys to look at this. They don't like the idea, but they agree that slavery has a lasting troubling effect. Now, they actually believe that slavery has a lasting troubling effect, right? But I want you guys to understand, when people make this about slavery, they take away Jim Crow, which was literally less than 65 years ago. How many people's parents lived through Jim Crow and segregation? Now, when you talk about Jim Crow and segregation, when people give the "but black people sold black people" argument, what does that have to do with Jim Crow and segregation? I actually just got really lazy, Hurricane IQ. I could have, but I kind of got on some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I kind of got on some bullshit. I got to keep it a bean. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says the task force. Now check this out. The task force was created after George Floyd, a black man, was murdered by a white police officer in Minneapolis in 2020. Right now, why would all of this stuff? See, here's the problem, right? No one cares that anybody in the government tried to pick up momentum on this when George Floyd was deleted by Derek Chauvin. My question, and the question that everybody should be asking the Democrats, is where were you on this all of those years you were getting free votes? Shout out to Eddie. What's good with it, Eddie? Where was the Democrats on this issue all of those years they was getting them votes for free? They just now thought to try to deal with issues from Jim Crow and slavery when Derek Chauvin deleted George Floyd. They just decided to do it then? What have they been doing that entire time before that? If we're going to base reparations on police violence, what were they doing during Rodney King? What in the hell have the Democrats been doing? They're the ones that want to attach themselves to all this stuff. They're the ones that want to attempt to absorb everything that we try to do politically. What were they doing this entire time? So now here it says, in the aftermath of his death, the country faced a racial reckoning. And again, this is a fake statement right here. The country has not faced a racial reckoning. It's 2023, and just last week there was a race massacre in Florida. This is the mainstream media gaslighting. Reparations is the racial reckoning. And this is one of the reasons why we have to build up media apparatuses that are loud enough to drown out the voices of this fake media pushing fake information, misinforming people, speaking for people without taking surveys or asking any questions or any of that. Look at this media blatantly lie. Shout out to Brooklyn Queen. Brooklyn Queen said, when you rest, it gives me time to catch up on my replays. Hey, that's what's up. I'm glad. Hey, y'all been killing the replay views. I didn't know y'all be watching the replays all like that. Y'all be killing them replay views. So now here it says I want y'all to understand this. It says that the George Floyd deletion led to the formation of the reparations task force. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you agree with that? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. I don't agree with that. When these articles say nonsense like that, they literally act like Martin Luther King never mentioned reparations. Let me ask you guys a question. As much as Martin Luther King is mentioned when it comes to mainstream and current day social justice commentary, how come people never talk about his advocacy for reparations? Hey, shout out to Seeking the Truth Ministry. We respect the grift by watching the replays. Hey, I appreciate y'all. No, I need that grift money. No, I need that grift money. You know what I'm saying? And if you ask me, this is one of the reasons why it's so important for us to remove anything that we're doing from the control of Democrats or anybody else that attempts to infringe on things that we have going. And shout out to you guys are killing the night bot and the stream elements bot. That's what's good. I appreciate it. In June of 2023, that team released its 1,080-page analysis of the legacy of slavery and its recommendations of relief of those most affected. Those suggestions include everything from cash payments to the descendants of slavery to implementing policies to end the death penalty. What does hold on, slow down. Whoop. What does policies to implement ending the death penalty have to do with black people? How does that reconcile anything from slavery? If anything, all these people that are opposed to reparations, those people should be opposed to things that have nothing to do with reparations. The same way they can make a wise quip and say, well, what does slavery have to do with anybody that's alive today? But they won't pull out the records of their family's business. They should ask the question, what does death penalty have to do with slavery? Well, if you want to ask me what the death penalty has to do with slavery, is that people back then and today deputized themselves, right? And they deleted a lot of black people during race massacres based on assumptions where black people didn't get due process. If you ask me, people like Carolyn Bryant should have gotten the death penalty, not been allowed to die a natural death. People that commit race massacres like Peyton Gendron should get the death penalty. So I'm not with ending the death penalty. Shout out to Kid Gravity. What's good with it, bro? And even if you disagree with my take on the death penalty, I guarantee you that you will agree with me in trying to figure out what the hell the death penalty does to repair the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. What the hell does that have to do with it? Anything. But again, this is the Mercury News that has their availability to be able to spread this nonsense to a lot of people in California and make them feel comfortable with the lies that they believe. I'm telling you, when it comes to history versus gaslighting, history wins every time. That's one of the reasons why you'll never see any of these people anywhere near my platform. Not even in the comment section. So now here it says the cash payments would vary depending on different root causes of inequity. So now here they're talking about healthcare. To address health disparities, the task force recommended black residents receive $13,619 for each year that they lived in California, drawing on the differences in life expectancy between black and white residents in the state. And again, how do you all feel about this? Right. How many people lived good after they expelled all the black people from Oregon? How many white people lived good after they ran all the black people out of Wilmington, North Carolina for no reason over an election? Wilmington, North Carolina wasn't far removed from January 6th. Let's not forget, Wilmington, North Carolina was over an election. Let's not talk about woke history, though, coming from the same guy that says if we don't learn history, you bound to repeat it. Coming from the guy who, in his state, the Rosewood Massacre took place, Axe Handle Saturday took place, don't allow it to be taught in school, and then the Dollar General Massacre took place. I'm just saying, you got history on your side. You don't need anything else. The Adosos are the ones that are running the government. Shout out to Lana. What's good with it, Lana? The Adosos run the government. There's 100 lawmakers who are American descendants of slave owners. How many German descendants of SS Reich do you think are in the government in Germany right now? Or anywhere in the world for that matter? They rounding up secretaries from that time period. Joe Biden is an Adoso. Ben Affleck is an Adoso. So now here it says there would be additional sums to address over-policing, mass incarceration, and housing discrimination, which would also be doled out to residents depending on the amount of time the residents have lived in the state. Now, these recommendations are heading to the state capitol, where they will be addressed by Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom and overwhelmingly the Democratic legislator. Now, let me ask you guys a question. If 46% of Democrats are opposed to this, my question is, what are the chances that Governor Gavin Newsom is gonna do something favorable with reparations? Oh yeah, we say Adoso, Lana. American descendants of slave owners. And legacy beneficiaries of white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? There's businesses that are Adoso. AIG and New York Life are Adoso corporations. Go look and see how many railroad companies are Adoso railroad tracks, Adoso train organizations. Toxic history that they trying to quarantine out of the schools. You know what I'm saying? Not my problems, not my fault. It's not any of your fault either. So now here it says, without a remedy specifically targeted to dismantle our country's racist foundations and heal the injuries inflicted by colonial and American governments, and now they've compiled onto it America's recruiting of anti-black people from other countries. You know what I'm saying? The badges and incidents of slavery will continue to harm African Americans in almost all aspects of American life, the report reads. Now, I somewhat disagree with that, because all we have to do is just wake up, get on our value chains, and start giving it back. And I guarantee you that as soon as we start giving it back, they're not going to want to keep taking those kind of licks, and it'll stop. Shout out to DSB. It'll stop. How many people have ever gotten into it with a bully? What happens when you land a nice, good punch on a bully? It slows down for a second, don't it? It slows down for a little bit. Sometimes it even stops. But when is the last time we actually did that and tried to make a lasting impact? an actual concentrated measure. That's the question. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed that like button, please make sure you guys take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys haven't hit the bell, please take a moment and hit that bell. Shout out to everybody that's hitting the night bot and the Stream Elements bot. I appreciate you guys. But seriously, when is the last time we actually came with a concentrated effort on attacking all of this stuff? If people want to see things change, if you ask me, that's what we're going to have to do. Attempting to have a discussion with people that don't have a desire to talk to you, if you ask me, is futile. Does the evidence show that anybody's interested in having these kind of conversations? What does the evidence show? I just showed you guys some numbers. You literally can't even have a civilized conversation with this kind of stuff about people. Try it next time. Try having a civilized conversation about this kind of stuff, and you will see how unruly people can get as fast as they can get, even while you're being nice and just simply explaining stuff. And people get all offended. Well, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. My family didn't do it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, nobody said you did it. You know what I'm saying? But for anybody that wants to try to call me a naysayer or say that I'm trying to, do whatever, don't listen to that. Do your own field test. Have a conversation with somebody that you know, a non-black person, a non-FBA person, about reparations, and see what happens. And take my advice. Make sure you got something to defend yourself with. Make sure you got your you know what I'm saying, your power tools. You know what I'm saying? So now, so again, how do you deal with that? See, that's the question that people should really ask, because all of the information shows the same stuff. It shows that it's even difficult to get a conversation started. No, I haven't seen that video. Seeking the Truth Ministry. I'm gonna try to check it out though. If you can shoot it to me, if you in the Discord or tag me in it on Twitter or something, I'll check it out. Yeah, that's facts with the power tools. Big facts. Remember, in California, the NRA remember, in California, never forget that the NRA is behind the liberal gun laws of California. Never forget that fact. You know what I'm saying? So now here says, still, it's unclear how cash reparations will fare in Sacramento. Newsom's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Sunday, and the poll results suggest endorsing the idea would be politically risky. All right, so now, people can get mad and, say whatever they want to say and, try to, sneak diss and all this shit. Don't sneak diss me. Sneak diss Governor Gavin Newsom. If this newspaper said that there was momentum and support, and it looks like a favorable chance of reparations being supported by the senator, or by the governor, I would have read that. That's what I would have read. You know what I'm saying? But as you can see, what's highlighted here, that's not what it says. A lot of people get triggered and shit and just start making stuff up. Start saying that people said stuff that they didn't say. We're going to be real clear about who said what. I'm reading the article here, And this is what the article says. So the reason why I'm saying what the article is saying is because what I feel is that we need to have a strong backup plan, because at this point, if you ask me, it's beyond reparation. There has to be avenging. You know what I'm saying? And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed the like button, make sure you guys smash the like button. And also, please take a moment and show YGLTB1 some love with the 1999 super chat. Definitely appreciate it. Throw some radiation emoji in the chat for him. He says, I can't believe our people still consider liberals an ally to our cause. Their benign neglect, dismissive behavior is evident that our support for the party is a unidirectional relationship and will never be reciprocated. Facts. It's a unidirectional relationship, just like racism is. Racism is a unidirectional relationship that only we can experience or be a victim of. And when it comes to our support for the party, it's only us supporting the party, and the party doesn't do anything for us. I think it's time for us to start talking to the Democrats like how Joe Biden talked to the civil rights leaders on that Zoom call. Would you guys agree? Shout out to Edward Berry. What's good with you, bro? Would you guys, if you guys agree with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. So now here it says voters who opposed the idea said it would be unfair to ask today's taxpayers to pay for past wrongs. And that is singling out one group to receive reparations is unfair to other groups that have also been wronged. Yet it doesn't have anything to do with those groups that have also been wronged. And by this same logic, it's not okay for you to continue benefiting from legacy privileges and legacy businesses, as well as the head start that you get from having full access to the United States economy and us not having any access to it. Again, this is a unilateral explanation. And it's also an illogical one. So make sure that you guys understand that their arguments don't even have to make sense. So if you're dealing with somebody that can proudly declare something and it doesn't have to make sense, then dealing with that type of situation, again, is futile. The only thing that we need to do is we need to remember our motivations for what we plan to do. One of the first things that we should do once we get our value chains is attack legacy Adoso businesses. Either buy out majority control or tear them down completely and liquidate them. Liquidate AT&T, liquidate AIG, liquidate Chase, liquidate Johns Hopkins Hospital, liquidate Harvard. And if anybody doesn't know what liquidate means, because corporation is a word for body, because a corporation is an artificial human. So when we say liquidate, we talk about leaving these businesses leaking. Just like if you liquidated a person. That's called getting jugged. Jug these businesses. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, even so, voters largely agree on the long-lasting impact of slavery, the poll found. So make that make sense. I want to know, I'm tired of talking about the effects of slavery for black people because I'm black. I want to talk about the effects that slavery and Jim Crow gave white people. All of those hardworking businesses that they brag about. Go ahead and tell me about all that shit. I want to know the date and the location of when it first started and how it first started. And I want to see all of the invoices. I don't want to talk about the effects of slavery on black people anymore. I want to talk about the effects of slavery on white people. Why talk about the effects of slavery on us? We weren't slaves anymore, like they say, right? But their benefit from slavery is still living. So all it takes is a little bit of accounting. All it takes is a little bit of financial investigation, and I guarantee you that we can get all the information that we need. So, yeah, I think I might actually change my position. Maybe we do need to stop talking about, quote unquote, white supremacy, like how they say we need to stop talking about it. Let's talk about the effects of black labor on white people and how it benefits them today. Sometimes people are more receptive to things when you make them the center of the conversation. How did AT&T get into business? How did AIG get into business? How did New York Life get into business? How did the wall on Wall Street get built? I bet you if we had some people in STEM that could come up with a financial AI, I bet you the financial AI could come up with a nice calculation of the net benefit that being white provides somebody here in the United States. Because I guarantee you there's a financial figure that can be associated with that. Would you guys agree? Now, somebody will take this. Somebody will take my live stream. They'll clip what I'm saying, and they'll be like, "This coon, this coon is over there." If you take my live stream, clip that part, and say this coon said that we shouldn't talk about white supremacy anymore, make sure you clip this part as well. If you're watching this clip on somebody else's channel, you're a fucking idiot. Make sure you got that part in there too. I guarantee you that there's a ton of black accountants. If I'm not mistaken, there's an organization called the National Black Accounting Association. I'm not sure what kind of time a lot of those people are on, but I do know that they do academic research. And I'm curious, maybe, who knows if they would be up to do something like this or not. But if they're not up to do something like this, it doesn't matter because we can do it. Accounting isn't anything except for solving an equation. It's not that difficult. And literally, that's literally exactly what it is. If you ask any accountant, they'll tell you, oh, it's literally just balancing an equation. Literally all it is categorizing assets and liabilities, and then taking those assets and liabilities and organizing them on cash flow statements to show revenue and expenses. That's it. That's literally it. And then it's just different methodologies of doing it. Not that difficult. Not to take anything away from the accountants, just saying. You know what I'm saying? Lana says, I'm doing my family genealogy. My Adoso ancestors were given 250 free acres after the Revolutionary War. Adosos got free land, but don't hear any word about it. I have a copy of the deed. You know what you need to do? You need to show up with that deed and be like, I'm here for my shit. Do them like 50 Cent said. Is that what you bought from me? Oh, I like them 250 acres. Is that what you bought for me? Oh. And they ain't even buy it. They got the shit for free. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says 60% of California voters said the legacy of slavery affects the position of the state's black residents today, though that opinion is largely split along party lines, with 2 in 3 California Democrats agreed with that statement, while 2 in 3 California Republicans take the opposite view. And yet none of these people, the Democrats or the Republicans, None of them can base any of their claims in fact. They can't base the claims in fact. I'm going to show you how they be misquoting Malcolm X. Regardless how the notion of cash reparations fares in California is being closely watched and studied everywhere. Feelings in the Golden State seem to mirror those across the country. Pay attention to this. With 62% of Americans opposing the idea of reparations nationwide, according to a 2021 poll by the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Okay. So now, again, we still need to make the push, right? Anybody that tries to take my content and people want to say, oh, there's people out there being negative. I'm not being negative. Anytime I've talked about reparations, what have I always said? I'm in full support of cash reparations for American descendants of slavery, freemen, and foundational Black Americans. However, I also support extra political means and world domination. I'm not just going to sit here and use all of my airtime to boost other people's talking points when I got my own shit that I want to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody paying me except for my subscribers. You see all them people with the green names? You see YGLTB1? Ain't nobody paying me except for the people with the green names, YouTube and YGLTB1. And the people that support the channel. If I'm not getting paid, the only time I'm gonna discuss some shit that coincides with something that somebody else want to do is if that shit coincides with something that I want to do. Aside from that, I don't care what anybody else is talking about. Ain't nobody else even on my radar. And yeah, that's what I said. The people with the green names, DBB, facts. You know I ain't leave y'all out. I know you proud of your membership. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to DBB. Throw DBB some radiation emoji. Shout out to my man Bronze the God. What's good with it, bro? So you should always have a backup plan. How many people's parents told them, don't put all your eggs in one basket? Shout out to DBB. You know what I'm saying? Throw some radiation emoji in the chat for DBB. So I think that people should have a backup plan and not put all of their eggs into one basket. And if you ask me, I think that the backup plan that we have should be something that we completely 110% control. That is a way for us to be able to remain competitive and for us to be able to get resources that we need through extra political means. If the political system is not working, I don't understand how a message that I have can be negative or taken away from a message if we're sitting up here talking about benign neglect. In one sentence, we'll say we're talking about benign neglect, but then somebody will say, well, Robb is over there being negative, when you just sat there and said we don't get anything because of benign neglect. Which one is it? You know what I'm saying? Which one is it? It's neither one of them. What it is that certain people just don't want other people to say anything or have their own opinions or their own thoughts. And I'm going to tell you something. As long as my brain is inside of my head, I'm going to always have my own thoughts. So if you don't have what it takes to come and put my brains outside of my head, I'm going to always have my own thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And that's how everybody should be. That's how everybody should be. So now here it says, for opponents of reparations, it's not about the cost or difficulty of the policy, but about the perceptions of worthiness of the contemporary recipients of cash payments. So you got all these other groups of people attempting to judge our self-worth. which to me, what that means, and I want people to understand that the oppositions and stances that these people take, understand that this is an invitation for us to do the same thing to them, to reverse this and get no pushback. I want everybody to pay very close attention to that. Everybody that agrees with this stuff, right? That means that when it's happening to you, you shouldn't have any problem with it. And that's one of the reasons why I say people need to start taking extra political means with that as the goal in mind, because they've already given us permission. They have already opened up that door of permission to say, as long as you're capable of doing what we did to you, then it's perfectly okay. And see, when the process gets started, it's too late for it to stop. You had an opportunity and the opportunity expired. You know what I'm saying? So now here it says, still, research from the Brookings Institution found that the average white family has about, look at this. Research from the Brookings Institution found that the average white family has about 10 times the amount of wealth compared to the average black family. And that even when comparing those with higher education, white graduates have more than 7 times the amount of wealth than black college graduates. When that divide has happened, the research states, because black Americans have been robbed of opportunities to build wealth, not just after slavery, but because of Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, and other discriminatory policies over the decades. So now I want you guys to understand this. Understand this. By them saying that this was okay and permissible for it to happen to us, that means that they're opening the door and giving us authorization to be able to do it to them and get their full support. So that's what people really need to be working towards. Shout out to Deneen. What's going on, Deneen? If you ask me, no more games, no more half measures, no more nice guy, no more Mr. Nice black people. You know what I'm saying? So what we about to do now is we about to look at this old school video. Shout out to my man Torian Rain. What's good with it, Torian? We about to look at this old school video real quick. This is a black and white one. This is just like you at your grandparents' house. You know what I'm saying? Go over there and get some peach cobbler. You know what I'm saying? And sit down and relax.
Minority groups. We have with us 2 guests. One is Minister Malcolm X. Shabazz, one of the top leaders of the Nation of Islam, or the so-called Black Muslims. And we also have Mr. Herman Blake, one of the teaching assistants in the course. We will discuss today some of the goals and some of the strategies.
So now the year here is 1963. All right. Let me ask you guys a question. What was going on in the United States in 1963? You know what's crazy, Torian? I'd never seen any migrants running down the street saying "Que la gringa, que la gringa, que la gringa." Mata la gringa, mata la gringa. I never heard any video clips of no migrants saying that. Now, why is that? Why is it? Why is that? Shout out to my man TD. What's good with it, bro? Why is that? So what was going on in 1963? Was Jim Crow abolished by then? Jim Crow was abolished in what year? 65, right? So let's see from what Malcolm X has said in 1963 and give a report card on where we are today. And let's also check all of the places where all of these people that attempt to derange our internal politics, and that's a fact, YGLBT1. That's facts. And let's give ourselves a report card on what the things that Malcolm X said versus where we are today. The heart of the civil rights movement, right? Now, they sit up here, and that's one of the reasons also why they constantly go back to the slavery talking point. They literally just omit this part of history. But it happened. Shit. They got the videos. Whose grandfather is this white dude right here? You see, Jerry Jones got caught in the picture. You know what I'm saying?
Of the Nation of Islam. And I wonder if Mr. Blake might start it off by asking Mr. Shabazz a question.
Minister Malcolm, the thing that I thought might be good for starting it off is to talk about one of the most pervasive beliefs in the general society about the Nation of Islam, and that is that it is an organization dedicated to the use of violent means to attain its goals.
Now, the first lie, right? Now, this white dude has to have this black dude right here to shield him. I've never heard, like, see, this is the bullshit. The tricks haven't came. The tricks haven't changed. So they got some black dude who's on the payroll to get a pat on the head or something to sit up here and say, well, you know, the black Muslims are dedicated to using violence. Here's my question. I need everybody to name 10 instances of violence where the black Muslims ran up on white people and harmed them, or any non-black people. Is there anybody in the comment section that's Muslim? Is being violent a tenet of the Muslim religion? And now the thing is too, yeah, Officer Tatum been out here doing his thing for a minute. You know this dude related to Officer Tatum, right? I mean, this right here. These people have been raising their degenerate, pathetic waste of genetic material ass children to be like this piece of trash for a long time. You know what I'm saying?
The question I have is, how true is this? And why do you think it persists in society?
Well, the Muslims who have accepted the religion of Islam and follow the religious guidance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have never bombed any churches, have never murdered any little girls, as was done in Birmingham, have never...
They're still by... Hey, yo, over there on Rumble, make sure you hear what Malcolm X just said, because a lot of times y'all like to quote Malcolm X and you take it out of context. But since people like talking about what was going on back then and what's going on today, you guys are still terrorizing churches today. Just so we're clear on that. You guys are still terrorizing churches today. Long as we're clear on that.
Have never murdered any little girls, as was done in Birmingham. Have never lynched anybody. Have never at any time been guilty of initiating any aggressive acts of violence during the entire 33 years or more that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been teaching us. The charge of violence against us actually stems from the guilt complex that exists in the conscious and subconscious minds of most white people.
Damn, that sounds like the woke shit. Man, it's crazy how history repeats itself. No wonder Ron DeSantis don't want this shit in the history books. You think Ron DeSantis would get goosebumps listening to this? So this right here, what we're looking at nowadays is the remixed attempt to try to reinstitute that. Well, the black Muslims are violent, but you can't name anybody that the black Muslims attacked. There's all this anti-white sentiment, but it's white people committing most of the hate crimes. Liberals, like the people that are part of the Jimmy backdoor cult, will sit there and say, well, if you talk about these kind of things, you won't win a candidacy. No one's trying to win a candidacy over here. I'm trying to win the world. You go ahead and keep playing those games to be the president. I'm playing to get the world.
This country. They know that they've been violent in their brutality against Negroes. And they feel that someday the Negro is going to wake up and try and do unto them as they have done unto the whites, as the whites have done unto us.
Mark this date on your calendar, 9/10/2023. Hashtag villainy.
We aren't a violent group. We are taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to obey the law, to respect everyone who respects us. We're taught to display courtesy, to be polite. But we're also taught that at any time, anyone in any way inflicts or seeks to inflict violence upon us, we are within our religious rights to retaliate in self-defense.
Now, isn't that the same thing that white people worship Asian people for, martial arts? Aren't most martial arts a form of self-defense? Isn't that one of the reasons why white people support the Second Amendment right for self-defense? So when anybody else is trained or believes in self-defense, it's somehow violence against white people, even when you haven't been attacked. Facts. We just saw the double speak in that article about reparations, bro.
To the maximum degree of our ability. We never initiate any violence upon anyone. But if anyone attacks us, we reserve the right to defend ourselves. So to accuse us of being violent is like accusing a man who is being lynched, who is being hung on a tree, simply because he struggles vigorously against his lyncher. The victim is accused of violence.
Oh, that sounds like what they say when people are resisting. You know, when you've popped somebody's shoulder out of joint, and because your body can't mechanically go any further back, and everybody in the comment section and the police officer themselves say that you're resisting, that sounds a lot like that. Where's all the clipping of this? Where's all the clips of these wise words of Malcolm X? Because make no mistake, these are indeed wise words. Just saying.
But the lyncher is never accused of violence. And I only point this out because the various racist groups that are set up in this country by whites and who have actually practiced violence against blacks for 400 years are never associated or identified or made synonymous with the term violence. But
nope. Donald Trump will say that there's good people on both sides. Tommy Tuberville will say that they're true Americans. These are patriots. How come when they, how come Officer Tatum never reacted to this part of the video? How come Greg Foreman never reacted to this part of the video? Shout out to my man Ali 8100. What's good with it, bro?
Whites speak of Muslims almost synonymously with violence. Whenever Muslims are mentioned by them, violence is brought up, but it's not connected with any other group. This is a sort of a propaganda tactic, or what I would call psychological warfare, to in some way make the image of the Muslims in this country be a violent image rather than a religious image.
I'd like to ask a question in that regard. What's interesting is that members of the Nation of Islam have not used violence even when Black Americans were attacked. How do you account for this? Does this in any way contradict some of the basic premises of your movement?
I don't know how you mean.
Well, you maintain, for example, that you will not or that you should not use violence unless you are attacked by the white man. And I think we can note in the last several years, certainly, dozens and dozens and dozens of instances in which Negroes have been attacked, killed in some instances.
You mean in these
In
demonstrations?
the demonstrations and in the bombings, for example, recently in Birmingham, where they killed 4 little Negro girls. And what interests me is the fact is that
So first of all, I want you guys to pay attention to what this white journalist is doing. The tricks haven't evolved one bit. Malcolm X is a black Muslim, and Muslims don't go to churches. You would find Muslims at a mosque. So probably the people that were attacked weren't black Muslims. They were probably black Christians or people in the community. But now what this white guy here is doing is he's doing what white people do with Black Lives Matter, playing identity politics, which is something that they claim that we do. They're using the black Muslim identity as a blanket for all Americans when trying to find an outlier to try to find a contradiction. Very remedial, low-level tactic that's easily diffused.
the Nation of Islam has not done anything to retaliate.
I think you should be happy.
Villainy answer. Villainy answer. Throw some radiation emoji in the chat for Malcolm X. Villainy answer. You know what I'm saying? I'm surprised that the Muslims haven't tried to attack Malcolm X. You should be happy we haven't. Villainy answer.
The Nation of Islam has not done anything to retaliate.
I think you should be happy.
The important thing is, does your lack of action?
No.
Hey, even the Sambo was laughing. Look at the Sambo. The Sambo over there cracking up. He's like, yeah, my nigga, he got one. Stupid ass.
Done anything to retaliate?
I think you should be happy.
The important thing is, does...
See, that's proof right there. That's proof right there that there is a pro-black to conservative pipeline. And all those Sambos and all those coons are all actually defunct, twisted, warped, mutated pro-blacks.
Your lack of action contradict any of your basic principles?
I'll explain it. You should be happy that Muslims who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, number one, don't believe in any form of integration, and believe that every mention of the word integration by whites, whether it be from the mouth of Kennedy on down to the mouth of the lowest, raggediest white liberal in the street who is beatnik-like involving himself in these integration efforts, if we believed in it, we would integrate, and we would fight anybody who got in our way or made any effort whatsoever to stop us from integrating. If we really believed that the law of the land, the Supreme Court, and other so-called judicial bodies were for real when they talked about integration, we would integrate. And knowing that the law was on our side, and any effort we made to demonstrate toward integration, why, we would know the law should be on our side, if it's the law of the land. If it is the law of the land.
So understand this point. Now you have fucking idiots like Just Pearly Things who will say, well, see, these people are racist and they want to be segregated too. And this is what I'm talking about, right? Malcolm X specifically said the reason why he's against integration is because he knows that the laws are not going to treat him the same way that they treat the people that he's integrated with. He said that if he felt that the United States government was honest in their integration efforts and planned on treating them as full citizens, then they would be all about integration. Very different from believing that you're superior to other people. Very fucking different. There's no bell curve superiority ideology involved in any of Malcolm X's justifications for his opposition to integration. But you leave it to one of these people. You leave it to one of these people. They're trying to twist this all up. and say, well, see, Malcolm X really wasn't that different from Nick Fuentes. No, Malcolm X was very different from Nick Fuentes. Malcolm X was very different from Nick Fuentes.
And then the demonstrators are within the law, and the discriminators are against the law. But to show you the hypocrisy of the law, when Negroes demonstrate for integration, instead of arresting the discriminators, the law arrests the demonstrators. So this is a foolish move on the part of Negroes. And when you foolishly get yourself involved with an enemy, then whatever comes upon you, that's your business. As Muslims, we believe that separation is the best way and the only sensible way, not integration. And but on the other hand, when we see our people being brutalized by white bigots, white racists.
So what you got again is Malcolm X basically saying, excuse me, basically saying separation for survival as a result of the environment that we're in, right? Very easy to understand. Very easy to understand. They've been acting like, I want you guys to understand, this is right in the heat of the civil rights movement. This white man has probably seen black people literally be abused by white members of the population at large and the police on his way walking to work or driving down the street. They're acting the same way back then in the heat of this time period as they are today, with the acting confused. This white dude right here is literally acting like Malcolm X has no reason to believe any of this stuff. This is something that takes generations and generations of training. This is a family cultural value that's taught from many generations, from great grandparents to current day. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. If this isn't evidence that these are legacy tactics, I don't know what is. But yet and still, these very same people will literally have the nerve to attempt to try to take what he said and find some type of sage wisdom to try to whip us with it. Where are they at? All of these people that falsely quote the stuff that he said, that make these false comparisons, where are they at? Regardless of who they are. The Coons, Greg Foreman, Candace Owens, Officer Tatum. You think that Malcolm X would have a respectful conversation with Greg Foreman and Officer Tatum and Candace Owens, Clarence Thomas? Really? As influential and on code as Malcolm X is, he probably wouldn't even have a conversation with me, let alone with actual coons. And all they do is try to desecrate the wise words that he said, twist his message. And that's one of the reasons why I say people need to embrace villainy. Because if people are going to say, well, all you do is commit violence. Yep. And you're next. Because that's what you're going to take out of what I said anyway. Well, black on black crime is just so horrible. You need to worry about your own communities. Nah, I'm not. Our communities are getting overcrowded. There's a lot of immigrants coming into our communities. You need to worry about us coming to the suburbs now, is what you need to worry about. Yeah, you need to worry about me as your next door neighbor with my barbecue grill out at 3 o'clock in the morning. We ain't nothing but a G thing bumping. That's what you need to worry about. Why say that stuff? Why go to that level? Because you'll believe it. That's why. I got stuff to do. I don't have time to barbecue all day with a boombox bumping. I got shit to do. But if you're dumb as hell, if you're an idiot and you're going to believe that, you're going to be thinking about it when you go to sleep.
We think that they are foolish to allow themselves to be beaten and brutalized and do nothing whatsoever to protect themselves. They are foolish. They should have the right to defend themselves against any attack made against them by anyone. If a dog is biting a black man, the black man should kill the dog. Whether the dog is a police dog, a hound dog.
That's some old school black people stuff. When they say a gangster. Y'all remember on the Cosby Show, Bill Cosby used to say it like that. He'd be like a gangster when he was Cliff Huxtable. That's how my grandmother used to say it too. That's hilarious.
Or any kind of dog. If a dog is sick on a black man, when that black man is doing nothing but trying to take advantage of what the government says is supposed to be his, then that black man should kill that dog or any two-legged dog.
Or any two-legged dog. Or any two-legged dog.
Who sicks the dog on it.
Should other black men help that particular person who was attacked?
I think you'll find, sir, that there will come a time when black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves.
You guys think that time is on the way? Like I said, man, when that time comes, the expiration date on any civility is stamped. Some of us are further along in this kind of thought process than others, which is perfectly okay. I think people kind of need to like be easy on each other. Not too easy where you just give anything a pass. But, you know, you got to take into consideration certain things. But I definitely think that this time period is on the way. And one of the reasons why I feel that there's evidence of this time period being on the way is because of how the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are converging. And this is when Malcolm X may not use the same terminology that I use, but what Malcolm X I think is saying is that people are going to wake up and people are going to start using things like extra political means. When people start using extra political means, that's when the control has been lost. That's when it's going to get really ugly. And the thing is that there's no going back from that point. That's the event horizon in American history. That's the singularity. And this is one of the reasons why I advocate for people being as intelligent as they can be. Always going heads up with people. Make being competitive a priority. Because when people are living very dismal lives and we've passed them, and they sit around and are asking, what happened? Why is it like that? We can always run the tapes.
then the black man will think like a black man, and he will feel for other black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation where when you attack one black man, you are attacking all black men.
And so now, for all the white people that don't understand the significance of the folding chair, maybe you'll understand it from a guy that you guys like to misquote. See? If you didn't understand the folding chair then, maybe you'll understand it now.
Think for themselves. As other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, then the black man will think like a black man, and he will feel for other black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation where when you attack one black man, you are attacking all black men. And this type of black thinking will cause all black people.
Shout out to everybody that's hitting the night bot.
This type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it. No federal court, state court, or city court will bring an end to it. It's something that the black man.
Is Malcolm X talking about extra political means? So now let me explain something to you guys. Anything that equates to resulting in the outcome that Malcolm X is talking about, the United States government will never help us achieve. That's like the United States giving Russia the most recent nuclear warhead instructions. They'll never do it. I think when people start to understand that and make peace with that and understand exactly what's going on, then people will have more clarity to start putting their efforts into actual effective extra political means. If you're in a gunfight and somebody else's gun runs out of bullets, are you going to hand them a clip? Are you going to hand them a mag? Probably not. That would essentially be doing that for us. It's the likelihood is very low as a result of the strategic bottlenecks and the strategic complications that it would cause. Not because of us not having a legitimate claim, not because of us not putting together the proper information. We all know our history. We're all very competent. The only drawback is our drawback to the lack of understanding of the kind of situation that we're in, where we're in a non-negotiable situation. And what's going on is that people are just playing with us to appease us. Simply having these conversations is a form of placation. Would you guys agree or would you disagree?
Black people to stick together. And this type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it. No federal court, state court, or city court will bring an end to it. It's something that the black man has to bring an end to himself.
Minister Malcolm, let me, on the basis of your two remarks, ask a double-pronged question. One, is it then your assertion that the laws with respect to how Negroes are supposed to have equal opportunity and equal rights in this country are not meaningful or believed by whites? And secondly,
so now let me ask you guys a question. Do you guys think that back then, during this time period, the people were saying the same thing that they say now? How does slavery affect anybody that's alive today? Slavery was emancipated back when Abraham Lincoln was the president. You Negroes have no reason to complain. You have everything that we have. Were they saying the same thing back then? Now, here's my question. They probably were, right? So how would they say those things back then when there was actual segregation laws? So if you got these people saying the same shit now when there's not segregation laws that they were saying back then when there was, how do you expect to be able to have any kind of civility or civil conversation? The only civil conversation that there is amongst us to be able to dealing with this. You can't rationalize with people that have a vested interest in maintaining things the way that they are now. That's a double negative. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed the like button, please make sure you guys take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys haven't hit the bell, please take a moment, make sure you guys hit the bell. And also, please share the stream to your social media.
What then is your opinion and attitude toward the civil rights movement in general, and particularly the Reverend Martin Luther King and his philosophy of nonviolent direct action?
So now I want you guys to see how they got the Sambo, right? And they're utilizing the Sambo to ask questions to attempt to pit Malcolm X and Martin Luther King against each other. You're watching derangement of internal politics in real time. You know what I'm saying? This is derangement of internal politics in real time.
If the white people really passed meaningful laws, it would not be necessary to pass any more laws. There are already enough laws on the law books to protect an American citizen. You only need additional laws when you're dealing with someone who's not regarded as an American citizen.
Which is what they're doing now. Which is literally what the Democratic Party is doing now. So now it's funny because all these conservatives, when they talk about Malcolm X, they don't talk about this part. Because Malcolm X is, when people are talking about, well, you know, they're doing this for immigrants and, you know, not doing this and that. This is literally what Malcolm X is talking about right here. The trick bag hasn't changed. Facts. Shout out to Miss Butterscotch. If you're not getting notifications, make sure that you hit that link that's in the comment section. And that link that's in the comment section to take you to the Discord. And the Discord to give you the links. Or the Discord to give you notifications.
But whites are so hypocritical. They don't want to admit that this black man is not a citizen. So they classify him as a second-class citizen.
So he Malcolm X back then, he's hip to the hypocrisy. That's something that hasn't changed. Let me ask you guys a question. This hypocrisy that he's talking about, has that changed at all? If it has, give me a thumbs up. If it hasn't, give me a thumbs down.
Get around making him a real citizen. If he was a real citizen, you'd need no more laws. You'd need no civil rights legislation. Civil rights, when you have civil rights, you have citizenship. It's automatic. White people don't need laws to protect their citizenship because they're citizens. But they don't want to tell us we're not citizens. And at the same time, they don't want to pass laws that are meaningful enough to protect us as if we were citizens. And the Supreme Court desegregation decision is the best.
So now all of these white people that sit there and say, well, if you wanted these laws passed, you should have had them passed back then. Here's my question. How would we get them passed back then? You see, Malcolm X, I mean, basically, this is the old school precursor to a FBA hate crime bill. Would you guys agree that this is the grandfather of the talk of an FBA hate crime bill? But I'm sure because, you know, things were a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? Things were a little bit more Pan-African back then. I'm sure Malcolm X was probably talking about black Muslims first and the rest of black America second, which I don't have a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? He's a Muslim. I'm not a Muslim. I don't expect Malcolm X to advocate for me first. I expect Malcolm X to advocate for black Muslims first. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a black Muslim, which part of being a black Muslim allows him his advocacy for black people. So I don't have a problem with nothing Malcolm X do or say. You know what I'm saying?
Best example I know. That's a law from the Supreme Court. 10 years have gone by. No desegregated schools. It hasn't been implemented beyond, I think, 9% in 10 years. So this just shows you the hypocrisy of the American white man. They talk out of both sides of their mouth. And for this reason.
Who else said that? When are we going to address that? And how come all of those people that like to clip the old clips of Malcolm X, how come they never clipped that part? Interesting, isn't it? And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you guys stick around to the end of the stream, because it'll take you right into the stream window for the next stream, because I owe you guys at least the part 2 of that Jimmy Dory stuff. Oh yeah, we need to start clipping the real parts. Facts, Black Bitcoin Key. If y'all agree with Black Bitcoin, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down.
We who are Muslims, that is, who believe in the religion of Islam, who believe in God, we don't believe that black people will ever get any problem with laws being passed or new persons being put in office, white liberals being put in office. There is nothing that the white man will ever do to bring about true, sincere citizenship or civil rights recognition for black people in this country.
Didn't I just say that? Didn't I just say that? So Malcolm X came to this conclusion in the 60s. This interview is from 1963. So now here's my question. Knowing that this is the conclusion that Malcolm X came to in 1963, what has been done since 1963 till today to put things in place to make the momentum for those changes happen? Let me know what y'all think.
Nothing will they ever do. They will always talk it, but they won't practice it. And with the Supreme Court, if the NAACP can tell me that they want a desegregation decision for me 10 years ago, but yet the schools haven't been desegregated, as I say, this is a victory with no victory.
There you go. He talking about the symbolism in 1960. He talking about the symbolism in 1960. Let me ask you guys a question. You know, all of those political parties and, political organizations that hijack our movements, let me ask you guys a question. Why don't they ever play clips? Now, they'll sit there and quote Martin Luther King. They'll sit there and quote Malcolm X. How come they never play any clips, any full videos, anything like that? Isn't that interesting? What's you guys' thoughts on that? Now, what I find fascinating is that people who end up mysteriously deleted, especially black men, they tend to have something in common. My question for you is, what do you think that they have in common?
It's a victory that you can talk about, but it's a victory you can't show me.
So, another thing, right? All these white people, all these white liberals, all these white conservatives. Shout out to Tricky Nick. What's good with it, bro? All these people that feel that everything has gotten so much better for black people. My challenge to all of you is to watch a Martin Luther King video all the way through. Watch a Malcolm X video all the way through. And bullet point and timestamp where we've gotten everything that they were advocating for back in the 1960s. I also employ Democrats and Republicans to do that as well. I don't expect anything from the Republicans, but everything that they find that they weren't able to get for us, once the Democrats have cataloged all of it, we need to ask them, what have you been doing this entire time? The only thing that we should be saying to Democrats in 2024 is, what have you been doing? Hashtag, what have you been doing? Because I can tell you what they won't be doing from this point forward, hopefully not getting a majority of people's votes.
So if you represent the NAACP and you were telling me about this great victory you won for me, when I look at you, I have to conclude that either you have been duped yourself or else you were trying to dupe me. And in most instances where the civil rights struggle is involved, there is no civil rights leader can point to me one concrete gain, practical gain that black people have made in the civil rights field in this country, not only during the past 10 years, but during the past 100 years.
So if we didn't make any gains for civil rights in the past 10 years, in the past 100 years, and this was being said in 1963, and we've been stuck in time from 1963, from when this interview was taken till today, how far behind are we? See, the thing is that all of the stuff that we can talk about, all of the grievances that we have, everything that needs to be said, all of that stuff can be articulated literally in very simple mathematical terms. Very simple. We can make an Excel spreadsheet for it. Yet and still, despite the fact that we can come up with all of this nominal data, people only want to address the issues for a certain reason. The reason why people only want to address the issues in a particular way is exactly because of what Malcolm X said. Nothing is ever going to be done organically by the people enjoying the advantage to decrease their advantage. That is never going to happen. When is the last time you've been in competition with somebody and they said, you know what, I'm going to just let you score a couple points. I'm going to just let you even the game up real quick and then we get right back to it. It never happens unless you're playing against somebody who has so much skill and such an advantage over you that they have a little bit of arrogance. But even if they do that out of arrogance, somebody that is really a competitor, they're not going to be arrogant. They're not going to leave any opportunity for there to be any kind of mistakes. Only somebody that's reckless and arrogant would do something like that. How many times have you seen boxers and MMA fighters showboating who are way better than the fighter that they were fighting against? And in the showboating, they messed around and got knocked out.
Now, the other part was with respect to Mr. King and the nonviolent direct action.
Well, I will let Jimmy Baldwin and John Killens and Lou Lomax, the writers, answer that. Speaking right after this church was bombed in Birmingham, Christian church was bombed in Birmingham by Christians too, mind you. And these 4 little girls were murdered.
So the Christians are still bombing people. Notice how Malcolm X said, and it was bombed by Christians, mind you. Those same people are still bombing churches. They found new stuff to shoot up. They're shooting up Dollar Generals and Tops. And Donald Trump is saying that there's good people on both sides. That's what we're dealing with. Let me ask you guys a question. When it comes to World War II, do you think Donald Trump would get caught dead saying that there was good people on both sides of World War II? As a matter of fact, let me ask you guys a question. Who actually has ever said anything like that? Only people whose platforms have been completely erased from the internet at this point. People like Kanye West, you know what I'm saying? Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes. If you even want to be able to use Facebook Messenger, you don't even go nowhere near saying anything like that, regardless of what you may think. Only when it comes to issues that harm us mortally can there be good people on both sides. When there's good people on both sides, really? So when we go to the courtroom, you know what I'm saying? When we look at all those serial deleters, there's good people on both sides. You know what I'm saying? There's good people on the prosecution and there's good people on the defense, right? Shout out to Keldrick. What's good with it, bro?
John Killens and James Baldwin and Lomax and the Negro writers and actors had a meeting at the town hall in New York. And Killen pointed out concerning these murders of these little girls, said the killings had raised doubts about the intelligence of the nonviolence in the civil rights struggle. He went on to declare that he could no longer be asked to love those who and killed Negroes.
Shout out to YGLTB1. That's a fact. That's a big fact. That's actually a, what do they call it? That's actually an oxymoron. You know what I'm saying? How does that even work? You know what I'm saying? Like, you believe in, I don't even want to go there. You know what I'm saying? But you know, there's two people, right? One of them is Christ. Well, like we're believing both of these people. You know what I mean? Like that hyphenation there is a oxymoron. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, oxymoron, not the type that go for $5 a milligram. You know what I'm saying? That's a that's an oxycontin. You know what I'm saying?
He also, and the writer, Mr. Handler, who's describing this, said that Killens, it was not clear concerning Killens' remarks to his audience that he was breaking with it was clear rather to his audience that he was breaking with the doctrine of the Reverend Martin Luther King's philosophy that as Christians, Negroes should love their fellow man in a truly religious sense. Now, James Baldwin, speaking on that same platform, said, and I was present during this entire affair, asserted that the American people shared a collective guilt for the persecution of Negroes, much as Germans did because of their silence during the Nazi persecution. He denounced President Kennedy for what he termed Kennedy's lack of passion in the civil rights struggle. Mr. Baldwin said that there could no longer be a Republican Party for the Negro people as long as it listed a Barry Goldwater, nor a Democratic Party for the Negro people with a Senator Eastland on its roster.
So now, this is the part that they never talk about. You see, Malcolm X just said that there can't be a Republican or a Democrat Party for black people, which we are pretty much 100% in agreement with, right? But they don't talk about that. They try to weaponize Malcolm X's words to get you to support whichever party it is that they want you to support in that moment, and not for your own improvement. You know what I'm saying?
To his audience that he was breaking with the doctrine of the Reverend Martin Luther King's philosophy that as Christians, Negroes should love their fellow man in a truly religious sense. Now, James Baldwin, speaking on that same platform, said, and I was present during this entire affair, asserted that the American people shared a collective guilt for the persecution of Negroes, much as Germans did because of their silence during the Nazi persecution. He denounced.
That's why you didn't see people people didn't really mess with Malcolm. How many people was calling Malcolm X out for a debate? That's what I'm talking about. Malcolm X struck fear in people's hearts. You don't have to have no gun. You don't have to be wearing no sunglasses. You don't have to have your hat to the side. All you got to do is have a brain, a functional brain, and stand on the facts. And that's kryptonite. And that's kryptonite. Shout out to Darkseid, Doomsday, and Brainiac. That's kryptonite.
President Kennedy for what he termed Kennedy's lack of passion in the civil rights struggle. Mr. Baldwin said that there could no longer be a Republican Party for the Negro people as long as it listed a Barry Goldwater, nor a Democratic Party for the Negro people with a Senator Eastland on its roster. He asserted that the federal government acted swiftly and energetically, that unless the federal government acted swiftly and energetically, future slaughter would make Birmingham look like a dress rehearsal. And now, what do I think about King's attitude? King's right-hand man, Wyatt Walker, at King's convention, according to the New York Times on September the 26th, said, quote, we have been duped, meaning these persons involved in the civil rights struggle, of which King is the symbolic leader.
Of which King is the symbolic leader. Oh, they don't say too much about that, though, when they quote Malcolm X, talking about how he said King is the symbolic leader. What did he mean by that? And then they talking about how Martin Luther King talking about he got duped. So now, if Martin Luther King was the symbolic leader of the civil rights movement, who was the actual leader of it? Was it a three-letter agency? Because where did it get led to? That's a perfect analogy, bro. A perfect analogy. We are just a political tennis ball only taken off the shelf during the voting tournament season. And subsequently afterwards, we are stocked back up when they're done with us. Facts. If you guys agree with YGLTB1, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down. That's a fact. That's super facts. That is a fact. That's hardcore facts. Yeah, facts. This is a intellectual bloodbath happening right now. And I'm telling you, how many times did y'all see people calling Malcolm X out? I want to debate you. I want you here. I want you there. Not very often. A lot of those times people would go, they really wanted to interact with Martin Luther King. You know, people would, they would mention Malcolm X in passing, but they didn't want to mess with Malcolm X. That's because of that radiation emoji.
Said that there could no longer be a Republican Party for the Negro people as long as it listed a Barry Goldwater, nor a Democratic Party for the Negro people with a Senator Eastland on its roster. He asserted that the federal government acted swiftly and energetically, that unless the...
If you walk in somewhere and you see one of these, what do? If you see this sign, what do? It's two things that you do. You either turn around and get out of there, or you die of cancer. One of the two.
Federal government acted swiftly and energetically. Future slaughter would make Birmingham look like a dress rehearsal. And now, what do I think about King's attitude? King's right-hand man, Wyatt Walker, at King's convention, according to the New York Times on September the 26th, said, quote, we have been duped, meaning these persons involved in the civil rights struggle, of which King is the symbolic leader. His right-hand man says, and I quote, we have been duped, or have duped ourselves into believing that the chains have been broken, when in truth we have only been chained more securely. Half freedom has in many instances...
These are the quotes of Martin Luther King. So again, as you can see, they are still using the same journalistic tricks. They haven't evolved any of the journalistic tricks at all from 1963. Nothing has changed.
King's right-hand man, Wyatt Walker, at King's convention, according to the New York Times on September the 26th, said, quote, we have been duped, meaning these persons involved in the civil rights struggle, of which King is the symbolic leader. His right-hand man says, and I quote, we have been duped, or have duped ourselves, into believing that the chains have been broken, when in truth we have only been chained more securely. Half freedom has in many instances been worse than no freedom at all. Why? Don't ask me what I think about their struggle. I can tell you what they think about their struggle. And they are pointing out that it is becoming more difficult every day for the civil rights leaders to keep the masses of black people nonviolent and long-suffering and patient and keep them from becoming disenchanted.
So fast forward to 2023. Where are we at with this? If we fast forward to 2023, my question for you guys is where are we at with this? And real quick, shout out to everybody that's watching. We got 51 people watching, and we got I believe we got 63 likes. If everybody can take a moment, smash the like button. If you're not subscribed, hit the bell and share the stream out. Get us over 100. That would be great.
Hope that answers your question.
Well, now there's a new party which has started on the East Coast called the Freedom Now Party, an all-black organization. Would you comment upon this and also upon the possibility that the Nation of Islam might begin to turn some of its attention to the political arena in view of the fact that it is in the political arena that Negroes have not been able to in any way get justice, as has been pointed out in your previous statement?
I'm not familiar with the Freedom Now.
So, again, there we are. This is from 1963. Now, here's my question. If white people believe that Malcolm X was such an impact and we can't live without him, and Martin Luther King is such an impact and we can't live without him, now that we know that the New York Police Department was involved in the assassination of Malcolm X, and that the FBI was behind the assassination of Martin Luther King, let's not talk about anything else and just ask the simple question. If people actually believe that those people were leading us to quote unquote salvation, what's the price of reparations for America's involvement in deleting both of them? Next time you have a conversation with somebody, see what they say. If you tell them that, they're not going to say anything sensible, but sometimes it can be, it's a nice stress reliever sometimes to see people squirm.
Oh, pardon. I'm not too familiar with politics, period. Only that in the sense that white politicians have usually been very hypocritical where the so-called Negroes are concerned. So I'm a bit disenchanted with politicians and politics. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a religious man, and his teaching is religious, and his solutions are religious. The Freedom Now Party, from what I understand, is headed by a lawyer named Conrad Lynn. I know him, which probably means well. Before passing an opinion on what it is he's trying to do, I would like to analyze it and see who's subsidizing him, see who his friends are, especially who his white friends are. And after
what does subsidizing him mean? Malcolm X is hilarious with how blunt he is, but everything that he said is right though. This is all 100% correct. Do you guys think that they were ready for that?
A lawyer named Conrad Lynn. I know him, which probably means well. Before passing an opinion on what it is he's trying to do, I would like to analyze it and see who's subsidizing him, see who his friends are, especially who his white friends are. And after a careful analysis, if I could conclude that there was no white support, I would be inclined to have confidence in it. But if I saw him leaning too heavily upon his white liberal friends for support, then I'd be suspicious of that too. The Muslims, in my opinion, represent an all-black party.
There it is right there. So what does that tell you about the bought and paid Democrats? What does that tell y'all? I'm gonna tell you something about somebody like Roland Martin. You got Roland Martin sitting up there crying to Joe Biden about the fact that Joe Biden ain't paying him no money. The government ain't paying him no money. That's not what you want. That's exactly what Malcolm X said. Now somebody should take a clip, this clip right here, about who you're getting paid by. You know what I'm saying? And then share that to Twitter and tag Roland Martin in it with him complaining about not getting them C-19 funds. Money matters. Money matters a lot. That's why when something is weird or something goes wrong or something seems shady, that's why people always say follow the money. Because money means something. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Why is Malcolm X interested in his source of funding? What do you guys think? What's the purpose of Malcolm X saying all of this stuff and asking all of these questions? He's saying this stuff and he's asking these questions for a reason, but I'm curious as to what you guys think the reason may be.
And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pointed out at before 10,000 in Philadelphia on September the 29th at a rally that we were having, that in 1964, the black people should band together and do something about electing representatives, black representatives, politically.
Hey, do y'all see this right here? Look at this. Did y'all see how that shadow, the light from the watch, caused that glare in the camera lens? Look.
That in 1964, the black people should band together.
See right there? You see it?
And
you got to actually put effects like that in the videos. You know what I'm saying? If you want that vintage, like old school look. You know what I'm saying? Look at that. Like, that's dope. That old analog camcorder look. Look at that. Look.
That in 1964, the black people should band together.
See, you gotta buy a whole filtered kit to get these kind of effects. The technology is so good now. The technology is so good now. You gotta buy effects to put on your video editing to make it look like the older school video style. Like, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? See, people that, you know what I'm saying, if you don't, you know, make content or do videos and stuff like that, that's not something that, you know what I'm saying, you would appreciate. But y'all know I'm OCD. That I appreciate that kind of stuff.
And do something about electing representatives, black representatives, politically, who have the rights and the best interests of the black people at heart. That we should also unite together and sweep out of office all of the black political puppets who are used by the white power structure to continue white supremacy.
Man, this is 1963, ladies and gentlemen. How good of a job have we done at that? 2023. If Malcolm X was grading us on how well what he said in 1963 has been done for today, 2023, what grade would we get? And shout out to Brooklyn Queen and shout out to Hurricane IQ for hitting the stream elements bot. Appreciate y'all.
On September the 29th at a rally that we were having, that in 1964, the black people should band together and do something about electing representatives, black representatives, politically, who have the rights and the best interests of the black people at heart.
Now, does Martin Luther King ever say anything like that? And I'm just asking because I'm curious. Now, remember I had asked earlier, oh, how come they don't show all of these old videos? What would the Democratic Party look like showing this part right here? Because let's just keep it a buck. There's no bought and paid black people on the conservative side that are masked to make it seem like they're doing anything for black people. None of that's going on the conservative side. But a lot of that is going on the Democrat side. So somebody should play this clip right here. You know, tag some of these Democrats in it and ask them how they feel about it. Because this, they want to hijack this stuff. They want to hijack the civil rights movement. Right?
Him, he probably means well. Before passing an opinion on what it is he's trying to do, I would like to analyze it and see who's subsidizing him, see who his friends are, especially who his white friends are. And after a careful analysis, if I could conclude that there was no white support, I would be inclined to have confidence in it. But if I saw him leaning too heavily upon his white liberal friends for support, then I'd be suspicious of that too. The Muslims, in my opinion, represent an all-black party. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pointed out at before 10,000 in Philadelphia on September the 29th at a rally that we were having, that in 1964, the black people should band together and do something about selecting and electing representatives, black representatives, politically, who have the rights and the best interests of the black people at heart. That we should also unite together and sweep out of office all of the black political puppets who are used by the white power structure.
Hey, this dude look a lot like how Jimmy Dore looked when he was talking to Cornel West, don't he? And Cornel West wasn't even hitting him with the power punches like Malcolm X hitting.
Continue white supremacy in our communities.
In that regard, would you include Congressman Dawson, for example, from Chicago, and some of the people who represent him on the Chicago City Council?
In which regard?
In the area of acting as a puppet.
I don't know what Mr. Muhammad's opinion is of Congressman Dawson. They both live right there in the city of Chicago together. I don't know what his opinion is of Congressman Dawson. I'm suspicious of any Negro.
So again, you see the white reporter using white media tricks. He's attempting to try to get the conversation directed into Malcolm X being a mouthpiece for Elijah Muhammad to get him to trash some politician. So again, like this, nothing has changed.
Be he politician, be he clergyman, or civic leader who is constantly patted on the back by whites. I have a tendency to lead toward the Negro politician who is constantly condemned by the white power structure. This is my thought pattern. I'm giving you an insight of.
So he said he's inclined to lean towards the black politician who's constantly talked down on by the white power structure. And that makes perfect sense. Let me ask you guys a question. Why does that make sense?
That we should also unite together and sweep out of office all of the black political puppets who are used by the white power structure to continue white supremacy in our communities.
In that regard, would you include Congressman Dawson, for example, from Chicago, and some of the people who represent him on the Chicago City Council?
In which regard?
In the area of acting as a puppet.
I don't know what Mr. Muhammad's opinion is of Congressman Dawson. They both live right there in the city of Chicago together. I don't know what his opinion is of Congressman Dawson. I'm suspicious of any Negro, be he politician, be he clergyman, or civic leader who is constantly patted on the back by whites. I have a tendency to lead toward the Negro politician who is constantly condemned by the white power structure. This is my thought pattern. I'm giving you an insight of.
You, though, mentioned Mr. Lynn and saying you'd like to know who his white friends are. Now, I'm wondering if you didn't make a contradictory statement in Muslim terms by using white and friend in the same phrase. That is
I
to
use
say,
friend in quotes.
I say, in other words, if a black man cannot have a white man as a friend.
He may have a white man who's friendly, but being friendly and being a friend, I think, are two different things. I think there are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly. And therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chopped in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that
And I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend.
Boom. Now, this is where they stop the tape at, the conservatives. And they ignore all the shit that he said about conservatives prior to this. But I think on a timeline, chronologically, if we look at what people are starting to do, this is the divide that's starting to happen right now. I don't think that crazy awakening is going to happen overnight. If you ask me, I think that there's going to be stages of awakening. And I think that this is the stage right here. I think that there's going to be like stages. You know how like a nuclear reactor doesn't just blow up? There's stages. I think that the first stage is awareness. The second stage is acknowledgement. The third stage is understanding. The fourth stage is implementation. And then the fifth stage is radiation emoji.
Chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chopped in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that
And I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro, who actually differs from the white conservative in the same way that the fox differs from the wolf. Their appetite is the same. Their motives are the same. It's only their mannerisms and methods that differ.
I would agree that no doubt there have been a large number of whites who have posed as liberals and as friends of the Negro and who have time and again betrayed the Negro. On the other hand, I think one could point to a large number of whites who have struggled for civil rights, for equality, and have got little or nothing out of it.
So they're still there. So they were using the same arguments back then in the height of the civil rights movement. He's using the trailer trash argument. In the heat of the civil rights movement, where black people are getting lynched in the street, this white reporter is using the white trash argument.
I would agree that no doubt there have been a large number of whites who have posed as liberals and as friends of the Negro and who have time and again betrayed the Negro. On the other hand, I think one could point to a large number of whites who have struggled for civil rights, for equality, and have got little or nothing out of it, other than quite a few bruises.
Give me an example.
Well, the large number of white students who have gone into the South, for example, working for SNCC and other organizations.
Not working for SNCC or other organizations, but working for the white political machines who benefit by the voting efforts of Negroes.
Okay, I'll be more specific. I would cite Herbert Hill, for example, as a kind of person who has championed Negro job rights.
Shout out to the villainy laugh. Shout out to the villainy laugh. See, Malcolm X can taste blood right now. That's the I taste. I don't know if anybody's ever tasted iron. You know what I'm saying? That's what blood tastes like. That's Malcolm X right now. He's tasting that blood on his soft palate in his mouth. You know what I'm saying?
For example, in New York City and elsewhere. He has fought the political machine.
First time I met Herbert Hill personally was when they were picketing to stop the working on the Harlem Hospital in Harlem. Negroes for 10 years had to fight the city to get an annex built on the Harlem Hospital. Because in Harlem, we need a hospital more so than anything else. Our people are sick. Plus, we do a lot of cutting and shooting of each other, though we profess to be nonviolent. And Herbert Hill brought his forces out and stopped the working on that site. This is the first time I ever saw him. Then when work was brought to a halt on a hospital in Harlem, the same Negroes tried to stop the work at the Downstate Medical Center in Brooklyn, which is predominantly white. They were out there for 3 months during the summer, couldn't stop anything. And I never saw Herbert Hill out there one time. Now, whenever it takes a stoppage of something that's going to affect the white man, you find the white liberal absent. But when it involves something that primarily will affect the best interests of black people and black people only, then that white liberal is present. Herbert Hill is the labor secretary for the NAACP. And if he was interested in black people, he would prepare a black man with the type of knowledge and understanding of the labor troubles involving black people that would enable a black man to sit in the same position as Secretary of Labor or Labor Secretary in the NAACP. I'm suspicious of whites who join Negroes and always have to be in the lead, who always...
Boom. Now what we witnessed was Jimmy, that right there, that Malcolm X is talking about. That was Jimmy Backdoor's meltdown. And more things that we've seen. Now do you guys see why they want this stuff out of schools? You see why Ron DeSantis is scared? You see why the people over on Rumble are scared? Because they should be.
To stop the work at the Downstate Medical Center in Brooklyn, which is predominantly white. They were out there for 3 months during the summer. Couldn't stop anything. And I never saw Herbert Hill out there one time. Now, whenever it takes a stoppage of something that's going to affect the white man, you find the white liberal absent. But when it involves something that primarily will affect the best interests of black people and black people only, then that white liberal is present. Herbert Hill is the labor secretary for the NAACP. And if he was interested in black people, he would prepare a black man with a type of knowledge and understanding of the labor troubles involving black people that would enable a black man to sit in the same position as Secretary of Labor or Labor Secretary in the NAACP. I'm suspicious of whites who join Negroes and always have to be in the lead, who always have to be the head, who always have to be at the top in Negro organizations. Those whites who really have the interest of blacks at heart, let them give some advice to some Negroes and stand on the sideline. But don't join the organization and then get at the head of it and pose as a friend of Negroes.
Well, I would defend his sincerity and his commitment. And more than that, I would say that just because a person is a Negro or a black American does not mean he's going to struggle for Negro rights or for jobs for Negroes or anything else. I think that today you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These
are... Like I said, this is easy work. Easy work. This is easy work. Like I said, this is one of the reasons why it's very rare that you'll ever see any of these kind of people. There's certain, just like how Malcolm X, how he said, be weary of how somebody's getting subsidized. Be weary who people engage with. People stay away from certain people for a reason. I guarantee you, if I'm ever fortunate enough to build my channel up to 3 million subscribers, still nobody will come around here. And what you're looking at right here is why. Because if we got multiple clips of this kind of intellectual beatdown happening, that sets a bad precedent that slows down a lot of public momentum. And that is not the kind of look that they can put out. So to avoid creation of viral clips like that, to avoid creation of the viral clips like what happened when old girl was asked what the word woke meant and she got destroyed by Breonna Joy Gray, they don't like those moments going viral. This whole damn interview would be viral if the internet was around back then. Malcolm X was going through this interview like he had 2 axes on the ends of nunchucks. Yeah, Methany Mandel, that's who it was. Good look, Torian. pay very close attention. When people stay away from you, that means something. That's why I always tell Kid Gravity, don't even trip that Vivek Ramaswamy won't go to your platform. That says something. Because I guarantee you Vivek Ramaswamy would have never sat in the same room as Malcolm X. Ever. Vivek Ramaswamy would never sit in a room with Dr. John Henry Clark. Ever. You saw the bloodbath that took place when they tried to debate Dr. John Henry Clark. And Dr. John Henry Clark was talking shit. Power tools are a nice supplement, but your brain, your assessment ability, and your retention and recall of facts are your most lethal weapons. Trust me on this.
Else, I think that today you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has been betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals.
Minister Malcolm, I'd like to.
Well, I could cite one example would be Congressman Dawson, for example, in Chicago. In Chicago, a large number of liberals located in the Hyde Park district have consistently fought Dawson and his betrayals.
I mean, what is the obsession with Chicago with these motherfuckers? Even they legacy complain about Chicago. It's 1963. Still stuck on Chicago. Can we take a moment to laugh at that? Right, Torian facts. Even mentioning Chicago back then. And even when mentioning Chicago back then, still getting crushed. Still getting crushed. Every time you mention Chicago, still getting crushed. They haven't learned no new tricks. Like, this is crazy, man.
Of the Negro, and they've also fought some of the people who represent Dawson on the Chicago City Council.
Yeah,
The
Chicago.
I know who is constantly fought, only Negro politician that I know who is constantly fought by white liberals is Adam Clayton Powell. And they call him a racist because he speaks so bluntly on the race issue. But I'm not
still doing the same thing. If you're black and you talk about race, you got white people calling you a racist. And Malcolm X called that shit out very nice, concise, and streamlined. Because white people equate saying something about race to what they do, which is massacre, hang people, lynch people, slavery, Jim Crow. But if you mention racism, you're a racist. Nowadays, the terminology that they've slightly evolved to is attempting to call somebody a black supremacist, which is laughable. Because then when you ask them how many black supremacist organizations have infiltrated government agencies, they have nothing for you. Right. What about Chicago? It was what about Chicago? Look, check this out. They was asking about Chicago back in the 1960s. Guess what? Chicago's still there. And now the only time when it's about to be on the verge of destruction is when they decided to open up the floodgates and change the immigration policies and dump a bunch of migrants into the city. Chicago was still functioning with gang activity and crime. What set the equilibrium off is the migrant crisis. You think they'll mention that though?
Who has betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals.
Minister Malcolm, I'd like to.
Well, I could cite one example would be Congressman Dawson, for example, in Chicago. In Chicago, a large number of liberals located in the Hyde Park district have consistently fought Dawson and his betrayals of the Negro, and they've also fought some of the people who represent Dawson on the Chicago City Council.
The only Negro I know who is constantly fought, only Negro politician that I know who is constantly fought by white liberals is Adam Clayton Powell. and they call him a racist because he speaks so bluntly on the race issue. But I'm not, as I said, not too familiar with Dawson and his work.
Let me return to the Nation of Islam per se, Minister, by raising a question which struck me as a result of reading some of Baldwin's work, namely The Fire Next Time. Baldwin pointed out that in Harlem for many years he had passed the street corners and the soapboxes and heard people speaking from these platforms who were known as black nationalists, and nobody was listening. And he said all of a sudden he realized that people were beginning to listen to the Muslim speakers on the street corners in Harlem. The message essentially was the same.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. This is like what we hear today. This is legit history repeating itself. What else it means is that these people's parents have taught them all of the same talking points. The people of today got these talking points from their parents and grandparents. And that's why history is repeating. You literally, they're using Fox News talking points in the heart of the civil rights movement. Yet on Fox News, you have Fox News acting as if we've come so far. Do you guys understand this right here? This is why they want the books out of the shelves. This is why they want the history burnt up. You might be scared of movies like Hellraiser. You know what I'm saying? And Nightmare on Elm Street. Ron DeSantis is this scared of movies like Rosewood.
But it was that now many people were listening to what this message was. And you pointed out that the Nation of Islam has been in the picture for about 33 years. What is it, in your judgment, that has caused this tremendous amount of support that the Nation of Islam has garnered in the Negro community in, say, the last 10 years?
When you put a seed in the soil, it remains beneath the soil until the season changes. And when the season changes, that the seasonal change automatically brings about rather atmospheric conditions bring about a seasonal change that makes that seed come up or crop grow in its appointed time. And all over this world today, God himself has brought about political changes, a political atmosphere, sociological, social atmosphere, economic atmosphere. These economic conditions, these political conditions and social conditions combine to bring about a situation that is making black people in America more receptive, their mind more fertile to the seed of truth that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been planting for 30-some years. And this is springing up today and causing our people to see and understand now what they couldn't see and understand before.
What is the nature of the situation which is making black
Here's the
people more
thing,
receptive?
bro. Here's the thing. We're all ready for these questions. No offense to Malcolm X, because Malcolm X is a GOAT, you know what I'm saying, in his own regard. And I don't want to take anything away from his accomplishments. But I think Malcolm X would actually agree with me on this. Everybody's capable of doing what Malcolm X did. There's a lot of times when people just remain silent. You got to understand that when people like that reporter, you always have the advantage. Do you know that these people have been improvising and building on a compound lie for centuries? All it takes is to remove one toothpick and the entire thing comes down. You don't even have to be fully versed. You don't have to be some fist pumping, you know what I'm saying, RGB wearing, you know what I'm saying, kufi wearing person that, you got all the sage knowledges and the wisdom of the gods and the stars. You ain't got to be that. All you got to be is just a regular black person with a backbone and just stand your ground and know at least 30% of your history, and you will crush anybody that's in front of you, because these people don't know anything. If you know 30% of your history and these people are making it illegal to learn any of your history, you already have a 30-0 advantage in that confrontation. The same way that people's parents, the older people in people's families used to tell them a closed mouth don't get fed. A closed mouth ain't gonna win the argument neither. And this is what I be telling people. This is what I'm telling people. It's the same thing as the Olympics. I want y'all to pay attention to what I'm saying. It's the same thing as the Olympics. When people realize what they're capable of, game over. It's just a matter of getting you to realize what you're capable of. And it's very easy. Just open your mouth. Just stand your ground. Anytime they try to criticize you about anything, wear that shit. Somebody called me a black supremacist on Rumble the other day. I said Trump said it's good people on both sides and kept it pushing. They didn't have shit else to say. That kind of shit scares the shit out of people. You know what I'm saying? And we live in a world where people operate on fear. And in many cases, we've been programmed with a fear reaction. That whole thing about turn the other cheek, that whole thing about be the other person, be the bigger person. There were the people that were doing that at the time thought that they were doing the right thing. But those are fear reactions. Fear reaction is when you turn around and look whatever's coming at you in the eyes and you don't know what the outcome of the confrontation is going to be and you go heads up. That's the kind of time people got to be on. And I guarantee you, enough run-ins with that, the run-ins will slow down. Then the run-ins will start to cease to exist.
Take in the past, say, 15 years, how the nations have emerged, dark nations have emerged in Africa. Prior to 10 years ago, most Negroes associated or identified Africa with a savage jungle-like place. And whenever you mentioned the word African, in their mind's eye, they could see the image of someone running around with a spear, with no language. You'd say other bugaboo or Bwana or something, and who'd be in a jungle running from lions or chasing lions. But then when, after the war, when the United Nations was set up in New York City, black people began to look at men like Tom Mboya. They began to look at men like Nkrumah. They began to see men like Lumumba. They began to see men like Nasser. They began to see these Belowa and Azikwe, who could exchange intellectually with whites on an international level in a political forum and hold their own. This made the black people in this country realize that what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had been teaching all the time actually had substance. And they began to turn it over in their mind and see that what he was saying had more weight to it than what these other Negroes were saying. And they began to identify themselves with the black world and the black struggle more closely than they identified themselves with the so-called white world.
Let me ask you a question with respect to a statement which S.N. Udom quotes as being on a bulletin board in the University of Islam in Chicago by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. According to S.N.
All right, Hurricane, appreciate you being here. Take it easy.
You can accomplish what you will. Build your future on these foundations: freedom, justice, and equality. What is the definition of freedom, justice, and equality for the black man, and where and when is it to be attained?
Well, take equality first. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad doesn't teach us to associate equality with whites. Equality has nothing to do with whites. We don't want to be equal with the white man. He's not the criteria or yardstick by which equality is measured. He's not in a position to tell us we are equal. It's not his right. It's not his to do.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm going to reserve what I was going to say, but exactly. And the thing that I find fascinating is that white people act like they don't understand that them attempting to define what normalcy is a form of supremacy. Who determines that's weird? That's strange. That's odd. You're not the judge. You don't run shit. They terrorizing our little kids in school, talking shit about their hair. And then grow up to put perm in theirs. Shit is ridiculous. Shit is ridiculous. This shit should have been over a long time ago.
Equality, we want equality. We had equality before the white man was created. We had equality before the white man came into existence. And we want equality whether the white man is on this earth or not. Equality means the opportunity to develop all of our dormant potential, all of our dormant capability. And in developing this dormant capability, the right and the ability to stand on this earth on some land of our own and bring about a civilization and a society in which we will be completely independent, complete freedom to take care of the needs, to take care of the wants and the likes and the dislikes of our people, to establish our own nation, our own society, our own heaven, our own future. This is what we mean by freedom, by equality. And justice means as you sow, so shall you reap. If you do wrong, you'll get wrong in return. And if you do right, you'll get right in return. When you're in your own nation, in your own land, you're in a position to get justice. But when you're in another man's country, in another man's land, under another man's flag, and under another man's government, and under another man's court system, you have to look to that other man for justice, and you'll never get it.
Extra political means. Extra political means. Now, why did I show this video? The reason why I showed this video is because the article that I did talked about reparations. Something that Malcolm X hasn't mentioned once in 30 minutes of this interview. But you know what he did allude to? Multiple times he's alluded to extra political means. And y'all hearing it out of his mouth. So the people that have a problem with the stuff that I say, go talk to the boss. There he is right there up on the screen.
And Negroes in this country probably are authorities on that.
Yeah. To what extent does this formulation approach that expounded by Zionists? They, for example, many Zionists maintain they could never expect justice in the Tsarist courts and the courts found in other countries in Eastern Europe and so on. And they decided that it would be wise to establish a separate state in Israel.
And all of the world powers got together, the white world powers, I should say, got together and helped all of these white Jews to establish a separate state in the heart of a dark-skinned people's territory. And if white people can get together and let other whites, help other whites to establish an independent nation right in the midst of dark-skinned people, and then we don't see where white people should be so much against the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's solution, not of setting up an independent dark nation in white people's property, but he's asking the opportunity to set up an independent nation on our own continent. Let us leave America and go back home among our own people on our own land and set up our own independent society. But all he says is that this government, which made us slaves, should supply the transportation for us to get back home and give us all of the machinery and the tools necessary for us to till the soil and establish our own agricultural system to feed and clothe our people, our own economy, and in some way become an independent people among our own people on our own continent. This is intelligence. And Zionists should never criticize us.
You say then that the United
You know they didn't like that. And that right there is one of the reasons why the ADL had to attack Malcolm X and the black Muslims. Would you guys agree that that kind of talk right there triggered people like, what's that clown's name? Adam Greenblatt, I believe his name is, from the ADL. This is one of the reasons why the ADL had to hop all over this. I have to define this as a hate. This is a hate organization because they're speaking hate. Yet no hate anywhere. This video is still up on YouTube. Community guidelines must be compliant. Jonathan Greenblatt, that's his name. What do you guys think that Jonathan Greenblatt? What do you think that Jonathan Greenblatt would say about this? Oh, he wouldn't be happy.
States is not the black man's country.
Definitely
American laws
not.
are not black man's laws.
No.
American laws are not the black man's laws.
Well, the laws here in America were made by white people for the benefit of white people. The Constitution was written by whites for the benefit of whites.
Value chain. Value chain. Undeniable fact. By today's standard, this would be woke. But the very people that say this is woke will take clips of what he said to try to get you to help vote in their interests. It's a joke.
It was never written for the benefit of blacks. And when you read the Constitution, I think in Article 1, Section 2, or Section 1, Article 1, some one of the two, and it's in the Constitution, it says that it classifies black people as 3/5 of a man. 3/5 of a man, subhuman, less than a human being. It relegates us to the level of cattle, hogs, chickens, cows.
And the white dude agrees with it. Look at his face right here. Now they'll sit up there and say, they'll write all kind of YouTube videos and FBI videos about how body language means something. But if you say, look at the body language, he agrees with what Malcolm X is saying. Oh, you're just being overly sensitive. No, you're just being overly idiotic. He agrees with all of the things that Malcolm X is saying that they believe about black people, which is proving Malcolm X's point. That's why he's got the smirk on his face. He got the Jimmy Dory smile on his face. You know what I'm saying?
A human being. It relegates us to the level of cattle, hogs, chickens, cows, a commodity that could be bought and sold at the will of the master. No, it was written by whites for the benefit of whites and to the detriment of blacks. And when a black man stands up talking about his constitutional rights, he's out of his mind.
Minister Malcolm, in our textbook, which the students...
Out of his mind. Out of his mind. Now, all of those black conservatives that talk about the Constitution and they play Malcolm X, how come they never play this part right here? Why don't they ever play that part?
Have read, supposedly. There is a statement, which is a quotation from Essien and essentially that from Lincoln, to the effect that the Nation of Islam does not have a great deal of support in the Negro community in this country by and large. And a recent national poll of American Negroes.
Just like reparations. right? So basically what that shows is that anything that will improve the position that black people have in this country is ultimately not supported by the majority of the United States. You guys think that's an accident? I mean, this is to be expected.
Negroes found that leaders and rank and file, according to their statistics, supported the Reverend Martin Luther King somewhere over 90%, whereas the support and favorable rating that they gave Minister Muhammad was less than 20%, and somewhere around 45% of them gave an unfavorable rating to Mr. Muhammad.
The reason why they gave an unfavorable rating to Mr. Elijah Muhammad, which is a reason why a lot of people would have an issue with Elijah Muhammad, I probably wouldn't be able to fit any of these standards of being a Muslim during this era with this kind of movement. The reason why they didn't like Elijah Muhammad, but the thing is that the people can't be honest about it. You know, these people don't want to be honest. I don't support Elijah Muhammad. Well, why not? I don't support Malcolm X. Why not? Because you can't eat bacon and pepperoni no more? You know what I'm saying? Well, just be honest and say, you know, I rock with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, you know, I like my bacon and pepperoni. I you know what I'm saying? I support them. I wish them the best, but I just can't do it. But a lot of times people have an emotional attachment and just are intellectually dishonest. The Muslims are very disciplined. Those black Muslims, they walk in formations. They wear this, you know, they wear a uniform. They memorize scriptures. There's a lot of discipline that goes into it. It's about discipline. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't really want to be disciplined all like that. It is what it is. Carlton said we going into off-code media. Facts, Tia. That's one of the reasons why people have an issue with the black Muslims. They have standards and rules and laws that they make you follow and expect you to follow them, or else you'll be outcast. People like to loosely associate with stuff. That's the danger of hashtags. You know, you can hashtag some shit, and then, you know, once you leave the internet, you know, it is what it is. When you actually got somebody to answer to, shit is a lot different. And when it comes to dealing with an organization that's as organized as the Muslims, there's people to answer to. And sometimes people don't like that. I don't like that. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I could never be a black Muslim. I wouldn't have been able to be a part of this back in the day. I don't like authority. I like to do what I want. But I got respect for it. I got respect for this, though. And I got respect for what they did. And I'm honest enough about myself to say that. But there's a lot of people that lie to themselves, and they'll turn around and have a, you know, they'll make something up or have a attitude or have some kind of spite, feeling like they got, you know, they weren't allowed to be a part of something or something like that. When it wasn't that they weren't allowed to be a part of something, it was that they didn't allow themselves to practice discipline, and it just is what it is. Nowadays, in the society that we live in, it's even harder for people to practice discipline, because now the entire mainstream of society lives in an immediate gratification state where everybody wants everything right away. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
What would your response be in terms of Baldwin's statement that this is a growing thing and the kinds of evidence that we have that there is much to it?
Well, that statement I just made concerning the Constitution is Article 1, Section 2 in the Constitution, where it classifies us as chattel. Baldwin did point out that Mr. Muhammad has the only grassroots support and is the only one whose whole following operates or functions on a mass vehicle. And I think Baldwin told Dr. Kenneth Clark that Martin Luther King is at the end of his rope.
Oh, I agree.
No, the concern.
Oh, I totally agree that can happen. I agree with that 110%. Seeking the Truth Ministry. If you ask me, though, to me, it's real interesting. If you pay attention now, there's a lot of elements out there that really kind of seek to drive wedges between people. It seems like because of today's environment, I don't know, maybe if it's social media or what, it seems like it's harder for people to tolerate marginal differences, which is something that I find interesting, because as the time comes when people need to have a slight amount more understanding of solidarity, people are further apart, which is interesting. And I agree, Mofax. Don't even get me started on that. You see that right on YouTube. You see that right on YouTube. Look at the whole Just Pearly things debacle. Look at people be caping for Rollo Tomasi. You know what I'm saying? You see this shit right here on YouTube. People caping for Jordan Peterson. How many thousands of dollars mediocre tutorials and reviews make off of reacting to Jordan Peterson as a black? You know what I'm saying? Like you a black dude, brother. Jordan Peterson don't even like you. He doesn't want people like you in Canada. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit is mind-boggling to me.
Concerning the poll taken by Newsweek magazine, I think you said that this was the leaders who said that who went with King and against Mr. Muhammad around.
Make sure y'all show some love. We got a new subscriber over on Twitch. Throw some radiation emoji in the chat. Definitely appreciate it.
90%. I just told you a little while ago, these leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader.
Hey, do this sound now? Here's the thing, right? Isn't what he's talking about exactly what the Democrats do? The Democrats use their political influence to damn near deputize these court jesters to be some kind of leadership. If we had a large majority of intellectuals, people would recognize that trick bag real easy and get those people up out of the paint. But you got people out there that'll fight you over, like, trying to tell you like these people are stupid. That's why I don't say anything no more. Like, man, I just go on YouTube and say my opinions and call it a day. I don't try to tell anybody shit. These people will fight for these false idols more than they'll fight to get their kid out of a burning building. I'm not dealing with that kind of insanity.
To Mr. Muhammad, what would your response be in terms of Baldwin's statement that this is a growing thing and the kinds of evidence that we have that there is much to it?
Well, that statement I made concerning the Constitution is Article 1, Section 2 in the Constitution, where it classifies us as chattel. Baldwin did point out that Mr. Muhammad has the only grassroots support and is the only one whose whole following operates or functions on the mass vehicle. And I think Baldwin told Dr. Kenneth Clark that Martin Luther King is at the end of his rope. Now, concerning the poll taken by Newsweek magazine, I think you said that this was the leaders who said
facts,
who went with King. And again,
super facts. I agree 110%. If you agree with Mo Facts, no one is obligated to deal with insanity. Give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. I completely and 110% agree with that. And what is the definition of insanity?
Against Mr. Muhammad around 90%. I just told you a little while ago, these leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer, or a trumpet player.
Now you see the white dude smiling. Neely Fuller Jr. would have been like, yeah, he's smiling like, I got you.
These leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players.
People still call Dick Gregory a leader. Rest in peace, but they still call him a damn leader. doing the same thing and expecting different results. Let me ask you guys a question. Have we been doing that? It's a lot of deja vu in this this is only think about this, right? We've only been through 35 minutes and all the deja vu. So just imagine how much deja vu is actually in 60 years.
Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community or over the black community by the white community and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear. And it is an honor, actually, that they endorsed Dr. Martin Luther King and were against the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's actually an honor. Now, when you say that they also, in the same Newsweek poll magazine.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 110%. If you guys agree with Torian, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
I think the pollster said that he went into the Negro community and asked about the Muslims. And many Negroes whom he asked said, well, I never heard of the Muslims. Who are they? You know,
This is the right.
We are. Shout out to Deneen. We are. You guys remember when I say DJ Blacklight, life on repeat on the ones and twos? This is what I'm talking about.
Rank and file.
Oh, yeah. Now, when they got down to the rank and file, this was the answers that they got. This is the equivalent to the situation in Kenya during the Mau Mau uprising, when many frightened whites in Kenya, Africa, would go among the Africans and ask them, what about the Mau Mau? And the African would say, I never heard of them. And the same white man who would ask the African this question and very naively believe what the African said, when he went to bed that night, he would lose his head. And usually the one who took his head was the same African who told him that afternoon he had never heard of the Mau Mau.
Except in the Newsweek poll, they used Negro interviewers.
You'll find that oftentimes Negroes are as much on guard around Negro interviewers, who usually represent the bourgeois element of Negroes, as they are on guard around whites. Usually Negroes know that when this bourgeois Negro walks through the door, he is not doing something that he's initiated.
This man is sneak dissing this dude and looking him dead in his eye. I appreciate shit like that. he's sneak dissing this. He's sneak dissing this dude, looking him dead in the eye. That's gangster right there.
As much on guard around Negro interviewers, who usually represent the bourgeois element of Negroes, as they are on guard around whites. Usually Negroes know that when this bourgeois Negro walks through the door, he is not doing something that he's initiated himself, but he's involved in something in which the white man is the absolute author of. And has
now, see, like, you know, a lot of times, a lot of clowns out there, they look at stupid stuff that rappers do. You know what I'm saying? Stupid stuff that people on social media do. You know what I'm saying? Dummies that go on people like Adam 22's podcast and people that go on DJ Vlad podcast and think that they do gangster shit. You know what I'm saying? Them drill rappers and DJ academics and shit like that. I don't think none of that shit they do is gangster. None. Nothing at all. This shit right here, this is gangster. This right here is gangster. You know what I'm saying? Because anybody will go out acting a fool like how them rappers act. Anybody do that. Look at all the people that do that in the street now. How many people out there that's not rappers go out and do this shit that rappers rap about? We see it on the news all the time. How many people go out and do what Malcolm X did? How many people do what Malcolm X did right here? I'm not impressed with none of the face tattoos, none of that dumbass shit. Face tattoos, you know what I'm saying? Like you rapping about drugs that you never copped. You don't even know how to use a scale. You know what I'm saying? I'm not impressed. This right here is impressive to me. Oh, you did? You went to jail? Shout out to my man Black Star Racer. What's good with it, bro? Oh, you went to jail? What'd you go to jail for? Oh, you went to jail for some dumb shit. I ain't got no holler for you, bro. Oh, bro, you went to jail because you was going in on the system? Oh, that's what's good. I got respect for you, OG. Yeah, Malcolm X, you finna get called OG and all that. This the cat didn't need to get called an OG. You call these goofy ass blood and crip old ass, you know what I'm saying, cats that don't even know how to turn a phone in 16:9 format to make a YouTube video. They getting called OG for what? What'd you do? What did you do besides lose your neighborhood? I ain't got no respect for none of them gangbangers, bro. None. I ain't got no respect for no pookies. I ain't got no respect for none of no clown like that.
Him to the Negro community for some information. And when they give that Negro...
Because I'm going to tell you what, when the pookies dried up, when the pookie hustle dried up, then they turn around and try to be Malcolm X. You spent half your life in jail. Then you're going to turn around and go tell other people who ain't never even been to jail how to stay out of jail. Man, gone somewhere, man. People should have been stopped listening to these old Wild Irish Rose drinking pieces of trash. Yeah, glorifying Fleece Johnson like Anton Daniels. Clown shit, man.
Some information. Usually they give...
I mean, I'm going to tell you something. Because of stuff like that, because of people pushing stuff like that, that right there is how when people say, oh, well, what is black culture? What is black culture? And you got all these clowns. You got all these clowns that sit here and be like, oh, rap and hip hop and all that. The people that run the rap music run that shit as propaganda so that you never find out about somebody like Malcolm X and claim this is part of your culture. They want you to think that stupid shit like Young Thug is the culture. Young Thug ain't the culture. That's just a goofy, skinny dude with some pink dreads. That's it. He a dude that like wearing pants that's too tight and too low. That's some weird shit, but that's what people doing out here today. See, like if it was for real, like how you could tell what happened with the way that a lot of these dudes have grown up. A lot of these people did not have no uncles, or they didn't have nobody that was gonna get them in line. For real. If you had some real uncles or some real cousins, some older cousins or some older uncles or a father that gave a fuck, he would be directing you to look at people like this. Malcolm X was an OG. This is what we used to do back in the day. You know what I'm saying? When we lived in the South. Even the criminals was better than the criminals are now. None of these criminals even do crime right. That's why I had that little playlist on Crimecast. The criminals don't even do crime right. These cats, like, because they doing dances and moving their fingers like they got Parkinson's disease, like they doing something. Y'all ain't coming even close to Frank Lucas or Nicky Bonds with anything that y'all doing. These hip hop artists, a lot of social media influencers, these dudes are goofy clowns that if they didn't have that check from their paymaster, would be washed up on somebody's couch watching Maury Povich. Not even cooking up a zip on the stove. They probably would only be able to cop a dime. I'm telling you.
The information that they want him to take back to the white man, because that's who he's going to take it back to.
Our time is just about up, Minister Malcolm, and perhaps you could summarize and conclude by giving us, in your opinion, or in the opinion of Mr. Elijah Muhammad, what would be the ideal solution to the racial problem in the United States today?
Well, on Thursday, October the 3rd, the New York Tribune, in an editorial, pointed out in Boston, in an article called The Civil Rights Iceberg, they pointed out how Kennedy had realized that beneath the water, the civil rights whole problem was political suicide. Because in his own hometown, the head of the Board of Education, a woman named Mrs. Hicks, was running against the NAACP philosophy, and she swept aside all other opposition. The whole white community supported her in opposition to the NAACP's desire for integrated schools, integrated housing, and otherwise. So I say that to say this, that even the Jewish community, which is supposed to be pro-liberal, went against the NAACP. Whites are against integration.
There you go. And you can, and now they say this now by how much of an issue that they have about diversity and inclusion. And the diversity Republican candidate, the diversity affirmative action Republican candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy, is astute enough to pick that up about those people and play on it. But despite the fact that he's the diversity pick himself.
In practice, but they're for it in principle. So the only solution is separation. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that this can be brought about simply by letting our people be exposed to the truth about ourselves, about the white man, about our history and our condition in this country. And once we are exposed to the complete truth about things as they actually exist in this country, the masses of black people will choose complete separation from this entire system, political system, economic system, social system, and whatever other aspect or description or adjective you want to attach to it. Let us go back home to our own people, live among our own kind, and solve our own problems ourselves. And if the white man doesn't want us to go back to our own people and live in our own country, then since we can't get along together in peace on this country with white people, let us separate part of this continent, migrate to that separate territory, let the government give us everything we need to establish our own independent economic system and society, and thereby we'll be able to solve our own problems ourselves and prove that we're...
Now, as much as white people complain, you would think that they would put something like that into motion, right? They talk about Chicago nonstop, been doing it at the least since 1963. Yet and still, they haven't done anything or made a move about that. Why do you guys think that that is? That seems like something very reasonable, what Malcolm X is suggesting. Yet and still, they haven't done it yet. Why is that? The fact that they haven't done it, if you ask me, is one of the reasons why when people say, well, you know, they're looking to replace FBA, I don't disagree with that. And I don't say that to, cause an argument or to cause confusion or have, any kind of disagreement with anybody's ideas or talking points. But the reason why I don't believe that replacement is the agenda is because we're necessary in the United States for the United States to function the way that it's functioned. I think that a more accurate term is reduction and containment. Not so much replacement, reduction and containment. And also mobilization. And if you listen to the video that's on YouTube called "What is White Supremacy Doing Today?" It's a video that's on Hip Hop Cartoons YouTube channel. And it's an animation of Neely Fuller Jr. talking. He explains that very clear. He explains that very clear. How many people have seen that video? If you guys have seen that video, give me a thumbs up. If you guys haven't seen that video, give me a thumbs down. I know there's some people that have, but I think that if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. Terrence and Nick seen it. Black Star Racer. Robin haven't seen it yet. Neely Fuller Jr. is way underrated. Bro, he had a lot of the answers. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why I keep laughing every time I see a YouTube video talking about Brickgate. Like, that's crazy that shit is called Brickgate. And it's crazy that so many people was talking about that stupid ass shit. How come nobody? Never mind. I'm not even going there. I don't even want. I had said that I wasn't even going to touch that topic. I'm not about to touch that topic now. That shit is just wild to me. Like, that shit is just crazy wild. So let me see. Is it enough? Let me see. Yeah, the Brick Squad. Like, that shit crazy. All right, so only Robin haven't seen it. So this is what I'm about to do. I'm gonna put the link to it in the comment section. Make sure y'all go check that video out, and also make sure y'all go and subscribe to this channel because this is my man Lito. You know what I'm saying? And he does good work over here. You know what I'm saying? My man does good work over here. Now, shout out to Miss Butterscotch. Miss Butterscotch said they're trying to replace us politically, right? Now, here's my question for you. Based on what we listen to as far as Malcolm X and what we're going through right now, what do we have politically that would be replaced? What do you replace zero with? That's my question. How do you replace zero? Yeah, I gotta agree with Eddie. Either you can't, or you have to replace zero with another zero. I don't think that there's a way to replace us. There's no one that has there's no people in the world that has the issues that we have in the United States are specific to the design of this country. Would you guys agree? The disparities and the problems that we have are specific to the design of this country, as well as the economic system in the country, right? And the political system in the country. We have very low ownership, very low income, an expanding wealth gap, difficulty mobilizing politically. In many cases, there's an incorrect focus politically. And these are all things that are not a reflection of us, you know, as far as us and the quality of us being people. These are the result of issues that the United States caused that we're trying to work by ourselves to fix, because the United States needs us to remain in the condition that we're in. I don't know if it's evident or not, but I think that this video gives a very compelling case for the fact that the United States wants us to remain in the exact same position as we have been. Would you guys agree? The problems that we have are unique. Like so you know how they talk about the planet, the Earth being in a Goldilocks zone? Like the Earth is just the right distance from the sun, and it's got just the right elements and just the right amount of oxygen and just the right amount of nitrogen. It's in the Goldilocks zone for there to be life. Well, we have the Goldilocks conditions to be a manufactured underclass. And I definitely do agree with that. I agree with that. Now, check this out. If we get replaced, who are they going to make to feel like they're not needed? You got to have somebody to make it feel like that. Let me ask you guys a question. If black people disappear tomorrow, how does racism work? In order for racism to work, they have to have a group of people that they can constantly focus everybody's attention on. If we just vanished into thin air, it would be extremely problematic for the group that has the most resources. Because those people have existing value chains. Those people have resources. So they would be getting a lot of pushback. It would actually be head-on competition. Oh, no worries. I know you heard me swear. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. Don't even trip. Let it out. You know what I'm saying? But again, though, at the same time, though, these are just my opinions, right? Like, I don't know. If I told you I had white supremacy's playbook and on page 3, article A, it says this, and this is supposed to be on schedule for 2023. Now, there's some people that talk like that, right? They'd tell you like they went in Dr. Claw's hideout, and while Mad Cat was asleep, they snuck and grabbed the white supremacy manual. You know what I'm saying? The Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, the white supremacy edition, ran up out of there, and now they, making their content straight from that book. Me personally, I've never been on a Mission Impossible escapade with white supremacy. I've never been in any hideouts or anything like that. I've driven through some small towns and hung out in some small towns, but that's about it. I've never been like, stealing any architecture or plans or anything like that. So I can only like base things off of my observation. And hopefully like the observation that I have is accurate. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is that I think that what's important is that I think more people should spend time observing it. And I think that as more people spend time observing it, our observation of things will become more standardized. I think it would be too, Ricky, but I think it would look different. We only know anti-black racism. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure there would be some type of racism, but it would be it would look completely different. It's the same thing as like it's the same thing as life, right? You know what I'm saying? Life as we know it is carbon based, you know what I'm saying? Combustion reaction, you know what I'm saying? Burning carbohydrates and exhaling carbon dioxide. That's what we know. That's how we know life, you know what I'm saying? For the most part. Somewhere else, life could operate with a completely different kind of metabolism, with different kind of elements. We don't know. That's life as we don't know it. As far as human history on this world, I don't think we know any type of racism other than anti-black racism. Being that those other kind of racisms, it's questionable how those things would affect us. Me personally, I think that the most important focus that people can have is on doing something to weaken the global financial structure of white supremacy. It's starting here in the United States. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's what Neely Fuller Jr. and Malcolm X and all of these guys were trying to say. You know what I'm saying? That's my assumption, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, like I said, I don't be trying to shout anybody down because these are all just opinions. None of us has the answer, right? But what regardless of what the reality is, we got to work through it every day and beat it. You know what I'm saying? That's the reality. The reality is that whoever is wrong or whoever is right, regardless, we got to work through this, and not beating it is not an option. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button. Make sure you share the stream to your social media. Help your boy out by leaving a comment after the stream. Make sure you guys show some love to the stream sponsors. We got Brooklyn Queen, who's been a channel member for 5 months, supporting the channel. Shout out to her. Shout out to my man YGLTB1 with the 1999 super chat. Show him some love. And shout out to DBB, who is a member on both channels. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Brooklyn Queen is a member on both channels too. So shout out to all the people that are members on all my channels. And I will catch you all in a little bit because we got to talk more shit. All right? Peace.